Hey, good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Bill Moretsky. I am a member of the panel today and the chair of the meeting. And with me on the panel via Zoom is Gail Anderson and Jerry Arnell. Our assessor today for today's hearings is Matthew Harling, and our administrative person is Fran Picotto. We will be hearing applications for revision of assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 to 9 on our docket today. So, Ms. Poto, can you please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony?
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Matthew Harlan.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name. Sorry, I believe you're on.
Rocky Neufeld.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we proceed with the first item on the docket, we just have a preliminary item that we need to deal with, and that is the late submissions from the applicant that were 1 day late, and they were all the same date, and it applies to all of the items on the docket today. So we are going to deal with them in a summary fashion. So I'll ask Mr. Harling, first of all, if he is aware of that and if that caused him any issues with review of the applicant's evidence.
I was aware of it, but it wasn't. No, it was nothing that caused any issues on my part. No.
Okay. So what we're going to do then is go in camera, and we will discuss I will discuss the issue with the panel, and we will we will, oh, sorry, maybe I should ask Mr. Neufeld if there's anything he wants to say regarding it.
Yes, thank you. No, I believe that there were some matters on the docket that were resolved, and we were kind of working last minute to come to agreement with the assessor. So it caused us to be, and I don't think it was a day late. I think it was half an hour late, but not splitting hairs here. Thank you.
Okay, we are gonna go in camera then, so if you could, okay, we are back in order. The panel has discussed the matter of the late submissions, and we have decided that we will hear the submissions as provided. So we can then begin with item number 1, 2533 Inkster. Mr. Harding, you may begin your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 24-4169. Roll number is 14099963000. The address is 2533 Inkster Boulevard, and the owner is DGB Properties Limited. The 2025 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2023 is $745,000. If you look into the property description information in my brief, you'll see this is a Bindu or vacant industrial parcel of land. It is zoned for M2 manufacturing general. The land area is 127,553 square feet, or roughly 2.928 acres. If you turn to page 2 of my brief, you'll just see some photos of the subject. So at the very top, this is just a zoomed out photo just to see where the subject located on Inkster Boulevard, just the adjacent street, Brookside Boulevard, just west of the subject. Bottom of page 2 is just a more of a zoomed in aerial photo. At the bottom where the red dot is, you can see where the subject property is located. If you turn to page 3 of my brief, the top is just a street view, just to show the piece of vacant land. And at the bottom of page 3, you'll just see the square where it says 2533. That's the parcel itself, and just a photo of the parcel outline of the subject. Turn to page 4 and 5. These are just further photos of the subject property, just shown from closer images, just to get a better idea of how it's situated. Then again, this is continued on page 5. You'll just see another photo of the subject property, just the parcel boundaries, just to get an idea of where it's located and the shape and size. If we turn to page 6 of my brief, you'll see some information regarding the how we're valuing the property. Again, this is just on land value, so we're assessing it on land value at $745,000. And then if you look below that, you'll just see the sale history. The last time the property sold was in January 17th, 2012, for $348,000. If we turn to page 7 of my brief, you'll just see the zoning of the subject and just a photo. This one again is zoned for M2 use or manufacturing general, and just a brief description, just what's the subject can be used for. So provide for light manufacturing, processing, service, storage, warehouse, wholesale, and distribution operations, with some limited outdoor operations and storage. So that's what entails of M2 zoning, just a brief description. Okay, now if we turn to page 8 of my brief, you'll just see the subject property and the land sale comparables that have been shown. So first things first, again, the subject property is located at 2533 Inkster. It's a vacant industrial piece of land. The land area, again, is roughly 127,553 square feet, or roughly 2.928 acres. Again, in the zone into manufacturing general. And then below that, we just have some land influences, such as bus route and heavy traffic. Now, if you look below on the land valuation at the bottom of the brief, again, you'll see the area we're assessing, as well as the net rent, or sorry, the land rate we're applying. So we're using an overall net land rate of $5.84 a square foot, multiplied by the square footage gives us, again, the value of $745,000. Now, if we look at the comparisons of assessment here, or sorry, the actual comparables, I apologize, sale comparables. So the first one is located here on Oak Point Highway. It's vacant industrial, it's 118,126 square feet, roughly 2.712 acres. You'll see the zoning, it's a dual zoning with a C3 commercial corridor as well as M1 manufacturing, and then just the land influences of the bus route and heavy traffic. This property sold on January 2nd, 2020 for $6.28 a square foot. Comparable two, this is located on 25 Foster Street. The land area is 119,996 square feet, or roughly 2.755 acres. Zoning's M2 manufacturing general. And this property sold on March 1st, 2022 for $7.08 a square foot. Comparable three, this is located on the Black Diamond Boulevard. It's 186,640 square feet, or roughly 4.285 acres. Zone M2 manufacturing heavy, and then just some of the land influences are no sewer, no water, and rail line. This property sold November 2nd, 2020 for $5.36 a square foot. And then lastly, comparable number four. This is another vacant industrial parcel of land, roughly 285,796 square feet at 6.561 acres. You'll see the zoning, C2 commercial as well as M1 manufacturing. Some of the influences are heavy traffic, external corner, and no sewer, no water. And this property sold on June 20th, 2019 for roughly $9.76 a square foot. So these are the comparisons of assessment. I actually have some photos of subjects, which I'll show on the next page, but so these would be the comparables I've applied here. So they fall within the range of the subject. Again, some are slightly smaller, some are slightly larger. So if we turn to page 9 of my brief, you'll see the first comparable. Again, this is on Oak Point Highway. So you'll see just the at the top there, just a zoomed out photo, and then at the bottom more of a zoomed in photo, just to show this comparison. Slightly irregular shaped parcel. And you can just see the outline of how it looks. Again, this one's located on Oak Point Highway, so this would be probably one of the closer ones to the subject. Comparison number two, this is located on 25 Foster, so you can see the top there. It's just south of Nairn Avenue, so it's a bit further away. Kind of a quarter shaped of a circle, if you will. So it's a regularly shaped parcel of land. Comparable number three, this is located again on the Black Diamond Boulevard, so you can see this subject here, more of a rectangular shape and a bit nicer shape than the previous comparison, but you'll see this is where it's located. So this is located more in the St. Bob's Industrial Park, so this is a bit further away from the subject. And then the final comparison assessment here, or comparable, I apologize, it's still comparable, is comparable 4 here. This would be the closest to the subject. At the top there, you can kind of see where it's located. You know, it's on the same street as Inkster Boulevard. This is the one with the dual zoning, so it's got a M1 manufacturing as well as a commercial component. So this one is slightly larger as well. So, and it does have a little bit better access, as you can see. It's got access on Inkster and the street here on, I believe it's Grosvenor Avenue. So, but this one would be the closest to the subject. So, and again, it is slightly larger. Turn to page 15 of my brief, just see the classification liability allocation. Again, we're just assessing the property on its land value at $745,000 at 127,553 square feet. And pages 16 and 17 of my brief are just some information regarding the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. So that concludes my presentation, and I am open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hurling. Mr. Neufeld, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, I do. Sure, certainly. Starting on page, sorry, I got to find this. Oh, well, just from the beginning. How long ago was this title created? Do you know?
It would be the title for like the sale, I guess, when it was sold, or like when it was like
1996. I'll give you the date.
Yeah, I wasn't aware exactly when that was. So yeah.
And are you aware it's been for sale since 1996?
I wasn't able to find any recent listings, but so I can't speak to that. But yeah, I haven't seen anything recently. But
okay, and the picture of it on page, to see the best one is page 3. At this point on Inkster Boulevard, is there an entrance, a curb cut on the median for a westbound entrance?
not on the westbound, no.
Sorry, I don't know if it's your audio or mine. I just can't hear much. I'm going to keep turning mine up. Try that again.
I can speak closer to it. Sorry.
No, I'll just turn it louder here, but okay. Okay, so there's no entrance from the west. So how do you get into this site from the west?
Yes, no, I'm mindful of that. You're at the west side there. It's a bit, it would be harder to get access. Well, yeah, you're right. You have to get up the other side for sure. Yes.
Do you know how it's done?
What
I'm
do you
just,
mean?
do you know, like physically, if someone wanted to come in from the west, how they would have to end up approaching
Well,
here?
yeah, I'd assume they'd have to do like a U-turn somewhere. I'd assume so.
How do you U-turn a semi-trailer?
Well, yes, I am. Yes, I understand that it would be difficult. Yes.
Okay, that's all I was supposed to. And this access, is this a shared access? Did you look into it?
Well, the parcel just west, or the property west of it is the same owner, so I know they could access from there, but but that's the only other way they could access, I guess, from that location just off of Brookside, I guess they would come in maybe. So,
So it's shared. Do you understand? Do you agree?
yeah, you could say it's shared, 'cause yes, it's the same owner, yes. So,
And on the site right now, did you investigate what it's being used for right now?
well, just from I was able to figure from the images and looking at it, it's just storage at this point. So,
But it's connected to the lot to the west, correct?
yes, yeah,
It's
well, it's a separate parcel, but you're right. Yes, you could. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes, yeah.
okay. No, it's just that I don't know if you're aware, but in past hearings, there's been an agreement to take the value of this land and subtract it from the larger parcel next door.
Oh, it's so yeah,
Or
yeah. I'm mindful of those situations. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying though. Yeah.
okay. Um, as in regard to the sales, I was looking at your number one sale, which is page 9. This is a different zoning, correct?
Yeah, it's got like the C3 corridor and the M1. So yes, it's got a bit of a dual zoning, if you will. Yeah. So
And the subject is M M thought it was M2 here.
yeah, correct.
Yeah, and this is C3. Now C3 is a commercial with focus on automobile usage, correct?
Yes, commercial would have that ability. Yes.
Okay. And when I'm gonna look at the picture, did you investigate whether or not the boundaries on this one, they seem to be irregular and connected to the property to the south? Did you investigate whether this was an assemblage purchase?
I did not know.
Okay. And do you know what I'm referring to when I say assemblage?
Oh no, yes, I know what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, just for the board's sake, it's when you buy the land next door and you pay more for it because it's located next door. That's the bottom line. Okay. The second one, the sale is a different part of the city, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And what was this purchased for? Do you know what the future use was?
What no, I don't know what I guess the use of what they purchased for. I mean, I think the purchase price was $850,000, but I don't know what the actual
Okay.
use was.
This is M2, but all the land to the north of it, that's on Nairn, and that's all commercial retail, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Number 3, I believe that at this point in time, there's a legal dispute going on in this property involving the city of Winnipeg. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of that, so I can't speak to that. But
Okay, I'm just wondering if given that there's a dispute and it has to do with the right of way, it's between Terracon and the city of Winnipeg, and there's some development issues that were made and retracted. I don't know the full details, but I know it's a legal matter. Considering that, is this something that had you known it, would you have proceeded to use this one?
I mean, in all honesty, I mean, I guess I'm just basing on when it's sold, but I mean, I probably still will use it personally, but I don't, like I said, I don't know the specifics of the background of that you're speaking to, but I'm not disputing it. So, but
I had a long chat with Terracon 2 weeks ago, so but I obviously I know we can't discuss these matters, but I know there's a dispute. Okay, number 4. This is just a maybe 1,000 feet east of the subject, correct?
correct, yeah.
And do you know the history of its rezoning?
I don't know the background of the particular the zoning, no, but I know, like I said, it is essentially split zoning, where it's got the commercial as well as the industrial, so. Or the
Well, I did not provide the verbal rebuttal to, but I mean the printed rebuttal to it, but I can provide something in verbal rebuttal. I'm extremely familiar with the situation, but is this not, did you not investigate that they actually had to change the master plan to change this from a future industrial use to a future multifamily and commercial use?
I'm not aware of that, no, so.
Okay. Does a commercial and or multifamily use carry the same value on land as an industrial use?
No, I don't dispute that. It would be worth more, but again, I believe seeing as it's,
Okay.
or yeah, I get home for the debt sale. So.
Thanks. Those are my questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Just to clarify, in regards to the subject property, is there sewer and water running through it?
As far as I know, check here. My understanding, I don't believe there is, but I can tell. So from what I can look at, no.
Okay, because your comparables, they don't have sewer and water, right?
Some of them don't. Yes, I believe yes. So.
Okay, and the best comparable, which one would you identify as being the best comparable?
I mean, I guess I don't look at it from the perspective of the best. I mean, we try to just show a number of sales that compare. Yeah, I can't say per se. I mean, in terms of I know Mr. Neufeld indicated some of the issues with some comparisons, which is fine. I mean, the closest one, I guess you could say, is because it's the closest, but again, it is larger and it would be definitely superior than the subject. So I guess in terms of that would be the closest, I guess you could say. So, but again, I'm not trying to say one comparison from all. That's why I showed a variety of comparables. So.
Okay, thank you. And your notes on file with regards to the January 2012 sale, what does it reflect? Does it reflect that it was an open market sale?
I can do a quick check here. Just give me a moment here. I don't believe. I think it. At the time, in our system, we have it as an associated sale, so I don't think it was included. We didn't include it, no. So I don't think it would be something we would use, no. So.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, any questions?
No, my questions have been pretty much answered. Thanks.
Yeah, and most of mine have been answered too. I just maybe want to get some clarification on the zoning aspects of these pieces of land. And this one in particular that we're looking at. So if we go to your comparison sheet, which is page 8.
Yeah.
So you have all the different types of zoning there: M2 general, C3 commercial, M1 manufacturing, M2, M3, C2. So what effect would the zoning have on the value of a piece of land?
I mean, I think, Mr. Neufeld, as he kind of mentioned previously, yeah, like for example, certain types of zonings allow certain types of, buildings and such or operations to be built on that piece of zoning. So you're right. So, that's kind of why I read the M2, for example, the description. So yeah, commercial would have the able to be built commercial properties on it, right? Or like, for example, like the one in Oklahoma Highway, Mr. Neufeld mentioned, like via an automotive type use. So yeah, depending on the use, yeah, that would affect the rate. I won't dispute that. So yes, so I know I've shown a variety of comparisons, but trying to find comparables of similar size and it's difficult to find perfect comparables, if you will. So I did have to expand my comparables I applied. So, but yeah, depending on the type of zoning, there are certain things you can build on certain types of piece of land, so that would have some influence on the overall value, if you will. So.
So would you say an M3 is superior to an M2, or is it vice versa, or?
Well,
is that-
M3, you have the M3, you can build a lot more on it. There's a lot more you can do with M3 than M2 and M1. Like it's kind of like backwards compatible. You can, M2 you can't do, you couldn't build M3 type buildings or properties or uses on it. So, yeah, so yeah, I guess you could say there's more use of it though. Yeah, so an M3, for example, opposed to M2 or 1. Yes.
And how would C2 and C3 compare in those terms?
Yeah, with the commercial, typically, you'll see usually higher rates per square foot on commercial C2s and C1s. C3s and C2s you would see than like an M, for example. So yeah.
I have no further questions. So therefore, Mr. Neufeld, you may proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to probably give you a little bit more verbal than written. This entire area called Inksbrook was comprised of about 3 sections of land. And in 1995-6, there's a fellow who's actually on the site next door, Klaus Rossler, who developed it and applied for rezoning and services. And the section that you're looking at on my page 3, all 4 of these parcels were purchased by one person. It was the Peterbilt dealer. It was Ed Danilchuk, and then to the north was, Jesus, I've forgotten his name, and to the east was Fort Garry Industries. I worked on the project back in 1996, and what's important, the question came about servicing. At the time, there was no servicing. Fort Garry was allowed a temporary hookup across Inkster, but eventually they came up with the plan to extend services from King Edward, and that ran all the way down commercial. At the time, one person paid for it, Mr. Rossler. He was in the business. He became insolvent, and Sunex took control of the servicing. And when I say take control, they own the servicing. So if you're buying land here, you have to pay them a proportionate rate for the servicing to get it to your site. And it's a common issue in the commercial world, where one person invests and the others pay the rate later. Then Sunex rights transferred to Quadrille, who now own them, and so they have the right to servicing, but it's not hooked up. Now, Mr. Danilchuk paid for his servicing for his Peterbilt site. I know that because he complained to me all the time about how much he paid. This site, I don't have the exact details on whether or not it's been paid for, but since 1996, he and his family have had it for sale. They did manage to sell their 2 sites on Inksbrook. One was to Watrous Power Systems, and the other was to a bakery. But they've never had a serious offer on this land, and it's not for lack of trying. The problem has always been access. If you look at the picture on page 3, you can see that when you come from westbound, you turn in at Inksbrook, and then you can get access to the Inksbrook sites. You cannot do a U-turn there with a vehicle, with a semi-trailer. So the way to get to it is to make a left turn down Brookside, and then make a right turn in Inksbrook, and then come on Inkster to loop around. That's about the only way you can get in there. Of course, they, for their own use, they have care and control of the corner lot, and they have other access ways. But that's as a separately marketed piece of land. That has been the problem all along. Nobody really likes the access. And this Inkster twinning took place in 2003, after they had purchased the land, so they were unaware that twinning would happen. And they made application, of course, to get a median cut. It was denied. The city said, "We've got one at Inksbrook. That's all you're getting." And that was really the problem with it. This is semi-trailer territory. So a semi-trailer needs 125 feet to turn a corner. one way, 90 feet the other direction. I always forget left, right, which one it is. But of course, that means you can't get in and out there. And if you were wanting to exit this site and go eastbound, then it's an even more difficult issue. You could do the turnaround through Inksbrook and try to come back at the lights. By the way, this is one of the jobs I did, was I did manage to get a median cut on Inksbrook for these people from the city to allow for semi-trailers. They had no problem approving it on Inksbrook to the east, but to get into the lots on the east and the west side. But of course, they would not budge on Inkster. And so there are that has been the problem all along with the site. The land to the immediate east of it, and on my page 5, have the larger picture. The subject is marked with the red dot, and my sale comparables are marked by number. Now, the assessor brought forward a sale on Inkster Boulevard. The one that was zone C2 is number 4. That's located in what has now been redesignated for commercial and residential. When the first plan came out of this, and I think it was plan, every 10 years the city has a new designation, and I can't remember, it wasn't Plan 2020, it was one that predated that. These are submitted to the provincial government, and so you set down the future land use. This was all designated industrial future land use. So it required a change to the master plan and approval by the province to change the designation to a retail C2 in one part and then RM in the other part. And so this whole lot that includes the assessor's comparable number 4, and on my map you can see right above Inkster Boulevard, the D, there's a roadway, that's Cleveland. So that's the boundary for this redesignation. The other street is Mobile, the longest one on top of the B. And incidentally, I was involved with acquiring that land as well. And we're still fighting with the city on amalgamation and removing easements due to the what happened at the time of the development. There were easements placed on all this land in Inksbrook because the land was still zoned agricultural. The city put 150-foot setbacks on this neighborhood. They're still in place. Now, that's not part of this particular issue. This just speaks to the whole area. And what is different about the C2 land is the difference in the zoning. M zone land does not permit multifamily. C2 has an equivalency to multifamily, an automatic equivalency. So you can the land that, for example, the assessor's number 4, you can build an apartment block on it. Administrative approval, C2 equals RMFM zoning, which is 800 square feet of land per unit. And that's where this neighborhood is going. I understand they're thinking about a shopping area here as well. And part of the reasoning for it is, as Centerport land came onto market, the truckers preferred that location for anything involving distribution. And as a result, the demand for industrial on east of Brookside and even into Inkster Industrial has diminished. These lands where number 4 is in, incidentally, were owned by the same family that owns our subject property. And they were 100 acres there were sold to Terracon for their redevelopment. And the good news is they donated the money to build a new wing at Grace Hospital. It's always a good story in all this. But so the comps we used are marked on the map 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 3 is the same zoning, the same issues that the subject is facing. The difference being is, and this is an older map, so it's not a question of getting the roads in. It's actually the extension of services, and that's why that one came out at a lower rate per square. That one being number on my list, number 285 Meridian. And that's why it came in at 70,000 an acre. So there are some additional costs that are going to come on to that for the physical cost of the servicing. And it's likely going to come at the end of the day to put it equivalent to where the subject is. Generally, we use about $140,000 a foot for bringing in the rest of the required development, and kind of gets you an idea where we're coming from with the subject lands. The other sale of note is on commercial, and that's on my map marked number 4. I'm not bragging, but I made a commission on this sale from the owner when he first sold it. And at the time, there were some issues on the hydro relocation, as well as there was not so much the servicing, because that road right at the top, that's commercial. That's where the services ended up getting down that. No, not that road. They ended up going on the lower road, the one that is now, I can't see the name of it. So this land, though it will be future multifamily use, as far as the servicing and development concerns on it, I think that number 3 and number 4 kind of highlight the issues that this neighborhood is facing. We see that that the subjects is still waiting for the best use, and you know, at the time, but what has happened in the meantime is that Peterbilt has expanded their operation from 30,000 square feet. I think they're pretty much closing on 60,000 square feet. So I think that the future use of this land is they'll just continue to use it for their truck business, and forget about marketing it anymore. They don't really need all that land, but they may as well use it, but because it's not really saleable. And you can see in the picture on number 4, you know, when you start parking motorhomes on it, that's an indication that not really a commercial use. But so our feeling on this, and then we did look at the sale number 1 that the assessor had brought up, and the issue with it is I couldn't figure out if it was an assemblage sale, although it is a C3 land, which is the designation for C3 in Oak Point came about because there were a number of auto-related businesses that were opening up there. There's now, I think, 2 or 3 used cars places, and there was also at one point a Harley Davidson dealership. So the city had considered that zoning. There's a tire shop there as a way of accommodating those uses. None of them have really been sticking around as because it's not a strong commercial neighborhood. But anyway, I thought that might be assemblage. And sale number 2 is impacted by Logan Avenue is got this stretch in between. I'm trying to remember the 2 streets. Well, it's around the 2200 block, where there's you're going to hear it later, there's a number of undeveloped lots for sale, and Logan is not a great street, so there's not much demand there. I think in terms of truck access, I thought that was a good one to look at because it's difficult to get in and out of. But overall, the Meridian sale and the would represent the low water mark, and 27 King Hedward the high water mark, and we just rounded that to 200,000 an acre. Probably the future use is going to be accessory use to the truck lot, and if they do end up amalgamating the roles, that will be a decision for ownership to take. But we also anticipate that whatever value is put on it will be adjusted for on the main truck lot. That's my presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Harding, do you have any questions for for the applicant?
I did, but you know what? It was actually answered with the presentation, so I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Arnell, any questions for the applicant?
Did I hear correctly when you say this land has been listed for a while? This
It's
parcel?
been listed for sale since the subdivision, which I think was 1996. Yes.
And what are they asking for, if I can ask?
The last ask, I don't even recall. I think the last ask may have been 10 years ago when they stopped advertising it. The world, our world of commercial brokers are aware that it is available on the market. Hasn't been any interest.
Okay, and just clarification on the water and sewer. Can you explain that again? Like how you would service that lot? You'd have to go through.
Yeah, I'll give you the precise location of it. I'm just trying to look at the cross streets here. One second. I can't see that well right now. Roads, okay. So the road on Haggart, that's the name of the street, is where the main comes from King Edward. And so Haggart is on my map is page 5 is the you see where King Edward is, and there's a street called Garton Avenue.
Yeah.
So Haggart, or where the services are the roadway just a little bit north of there. And they brought that in and ran it all the way across to I'm trying this other street, which is
Okay, I see what you mean there.
yeah. So Meridian. So it went up to Meridian, and from there, everybody took their services. So when we were working with Fork Area and Inkster, they had to get an easement, and it crossed on the border of 200 Haggard immediately north and ran across to them. And so there'll be a number of easements where it had to cross other properties. And that's why when the city says it does not front a water main, really only Haggart fronts a water main. The rest are being provided through the easements along property lines.
Okay.
They did it on the cheap. So right now you'll see that even we're dealing with another lot on Discovery and Meridian, and it doesn't have water. So it's but it's and they're privately owned. So if you develop a building there, then you have to write a check per square foot or per acre to the developer. Right now it's Quadreal who owns those rights, and it's not onerous. It's a good price, but it's just a question of hooking up.
So Quadrail is the owner of the main?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Ms. Anderson, any questions for the applicant?
No, I don't. They've been asked and answered. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Number 2, which is Logan.
Yes.
That's in the general area of the subject property. Well, it's kind of a little bit south there.
Yeah, it is a bit south. It would be called Logan Industrial, so it's a different area.
But yeah, kind of the general area. Number 3 is Meridian, which which you discussed, that's just a little bit north of the subject property, correct?
Yeah, that would be the most comparable in most everything. The issue being there is I don't believe they paid for their water dues. And as of today, I'm just looking at the map here. No, as of today, the road hasn't been extended. So we figure there's about $140,000 an acre in work that has to be done on it.
So would you say that could be the reason why your number 3 and number 2 seem to be anomalies in terms of square foot number?
Yeah, well, number 3 is taken in perspective. It isn't when you realize that it hasn't, to our knowledge, it still has to pay for that more service fees. It's going to come in at about 210,000 an acre on the as raw land, based on the cost. And Logan is probably an anomaly I mean, it does have water and sewer running through Logan. It's just I mean, there hasn't been a great deal of market interest in it because it's off the truckers' beaten path. It's hard to get in with the semi-trailers because it's a low volumes type of street, not designed like, say, the modern Centerport area with off ramps, on ramps, and wide turns. I think that's the Logan problem. And what in my mind, what I was thinking at the time when I looked at it was comparing it to our subject, who has a difficult westbound access and eastbound egress.
Also, the Meridian one is 323,205,000 square feet. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a lot larger. They haven't done any sort of subdivision plan on it. The users in this neighborhood tend to be larger, and I think that's why I was telling you about the history of the subject lands. They were 20.25 acres that they originally bought, and then the owner chose to subdivide into pieces. Then one next door was also 20 acres, and the one to the north, Usician, that was the guy's name, was 11 acres. So all these parcels start off life as a larger one, and then they come along and subdivide them for various users. But the desirability of a large lot in the trucking business is a premium rather than working in the opposite direction. Because there's usually about a 20-acre minimum required for maneuvering for any decent sized industrial operation. So I wasn't thinking about any sort of adjustment for size, because this isn't like, am I going to put a 7-Eleven here or a Safeway concept? It's going to be trucking. It's going to be big. It could be subdivided into smaller units, but the better money comes from a bigger lot.
So you're saying you wouldn't get it cheaper buying a huge piece of land like that per square foot on a square foot basis than you would if you bought one that was about 10th the size, which is something.
Well, like I said, the original motivation on the subject parcel was a big lot, and it's only after they set up how much they thought they'd need for Peterbilt, they decided to chop off the rest and put it on the market. And I was in the room, with Ed, the owner, and he and I were discussing it, pros and cons. And we knew that the site, the Inksbrook size properties were going to get a better price because of access, and this one was going to be a hard sell. And it got worse once they closed off the Inkster access. A small lot has fewer users in the trucking world, but yes, you got to look at the size. And I'm looking at the sorry, I just had the Google Street View on it, and you look at the dimensions on it, or even look at the trailers on the lot. it's not, once you put a building up, it's not as easy to maneuver around as the big lots. You'll note that the site next door, which is Watrous, doesn't do trailers, it does tractors. So they're a shorter unit to get in. The best comparison is Fort Garry Industries to the east of it, and Fort Garry Industries sells and services trailers as well as semi-trailer rolling stock, and they need their 20 acres. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's no hard and fast rule on the concept of economy of scale for these users. It's each one is going to want something that works for them, and chopping into small lots is something that you might see in a residential subdivision where they think they'll make a bunch of small lots and have more sales than 38-foot lots, and they have more lots to sell. That's where that thinking prevails.
One more question on that Meridian lot there. The sale was in 21. So
Yes.
that photo that's shown here on page 5 is a little bit chopped off at the top there. Then is that right?
Yeah.
Was this the way it was in 20? It was in 21. This photo.
I think the picture you're looking at is dated 21. I'm just sorry. I wanted to see the historical imagery on it. I'm looking at something else entirely. Okay, as of September 22, the roadways were put in. So that would have been post-sale. They were in August of 22. Okay, let's just back up a little bit further. In nothing, okay. In 20 July of 21, the road was not extended. February 22, no road, nor March, nor May of 22. Here we go. August of 22 is the first extension of the roadway. So I would say that this predates the installation of the road, and the assumption being is that the purchaser had to pay for that road, and I think that's based on the price they paid for the acreage, which is why what I was telling you about $140,000 for the site improvements. That's a budget number that we often use. The actual number may be probably be less in this case because it's a big lot and the roadways are marginal.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Mr. Harding, anything in summation?
No, I think I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you.
Mr. Neufeld, anything in summation?
No, I think we've been through an awful lot in this. No, that should be good.
Okay. Thank you very much then. This now concludes this item number 1, 2533 Inkster. So we will move to the next item on the docket, which is roll number 13001229100. You can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, the file number is 24-3677. Again, the roll number is 13001229100. There's no address on file, and the owner is Galesworthy Holdings Limited. The 2025 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2023 is $183,000. If you look on the bottom of my brief under the property description, you'll see this is Bindu or vacant industrial. It is zoned M3 manufacturing heavy, and the land area is 14,803 square feet or 0.340 acres. If we turn to page 2 of my brief, you'll see where the subject property is located. So the top here where the little red dot is, you can just kind of see where it's situated. So this is located on fronting, or well, Dublin Avenue is where you would have to get off of it to get to access to it. So if you look at the bottom of page 2, you'll see a better idea of where the subject is located. So you can see Dublin Avenue there, and then you see a street called Field Street, and at the very back, you'll see that little red dot, which shows where the subject property is located. So this continues on page 3 of my brief. So you just see where it's been outlined in red. So that's where you can see where the subject property is located and the parcel boundaries. If we continue to page 4, you get a more of a closer image of the subject. Again, here you can kind of see what it's a more zoomed in photo. Again, just the boundaries here, where it's just located off Field Street here. And then if we continue to page 5 of my brief, you'll get a better idea of the subject property as well. You can obviously see here it's, it was clearly used as a parking lot at one point. So, so that's kind of an idea. You can get an idea of what it was. So just a basic, rectangular shaped piece of land here. If we turn to page 6 of my brief, you'll just see the total value. Again, we're valuing it just on its land value at $183,000. And there are no recent sales history on the subject property. Now, if we continue to page 7 of my brief, you'll see the zoning. Again, it's Bindu for big industrial. It is zoned M3 manufacturing heavy. And here's just a brief description of what entails with the manufacturing heavy or M3. So again, provide light or heavy industrial development, including heavy manufacturing, storage, freight terminals, resources, major utilities and other related uses. Frequently heavy traffic for supplies and shipments that may require substantial mitigation to avoid sound, noise, and odor impacting the neighboring properties. So that's just a brief description of what entails in M3 land. So, okay, so now if we continue to page 8 of my brief, you'll just see the subject property as well as the comparable sales. So again, the subject is big industrial. The land area is 14,802 square feet, roughly 0.340 acres. Zoned M3 manufacturing heavy, and some of the land inputs we have are no sewer and water. And if you look at the bottom of the land valuation, you'll see we are assessing the property at a land rate of $12.36 a square foot, which gives us the total value of $183,000. Now, if we start looking at some of the comparisons here, so the first one you can see it's 5,743 square feet. This is located in Provencher Boulevard, so this is a bit further away from the subject. This is located in the Mission Industrial location of the city. It's the same zoning as the subject. This one's sold on December 9th, 2021 for roughly $27.86 a square foot. Comparable number 2, this is located on 566 Dufferin Avenue. Again, big industrial, slightly, again, smaller in size. It's 7,285 square feet or 0.167 acres. And this one is zoned for M1 manufacturing light. And then just in the land influences for that subject, or for that comparison. And this property sold on September 22nd, 2020 for $19.22 a square foot. Now, comparable 3, this is located on 615 Plinkett Street. This would be very close to the Provencher Boulevard comparison. 7,776 square feet, or roughly 0.179 acres. Roughly the zoning is M3 manufacturing heavy. And this one sold on December 12th, 2019 for $24.76 a square foot. Comparable 4, this is located in Jarvis Avenue. This is 16,337 square feet, or roughly 0.375 acres. This one is zoned M2 manufacturing, and then just the external corner of this land influence. And this one's a slightly older sale, sold on July 16th, 2018 for $14.38 a square foot. And then lastly, comparable number 5. This is located on 720 Aaron Street. Again, another vacant industrial parcel, 18,521 square feet or 0.425 acres. It is zoned M1 manufacturing light, and some of the land influence is external corner. And again, this is a slightly older sale too at June 6, 2017 for $21.60 a square foot. So I will note some of the comparisons, like especially comparables 1 through 3, they are smaller, so that would definitely have some bearing on the rate per square foot as well. But I'll go through some of the photos on the pages, following pages, to kind of go through each comparison just to show. So comparable 1, so this is located on Provencher Boulevard, as I indicated. So, and this is on page 9. So you'll see the outline of the subject. At the top is just more of a zoomed out photo, and at the bottom, just more a closer image. So again, this is just a rectangular shape of parcel land. It is smaller, so, and again, this is just, it's just being used for storage, as you can see just in the photo. And again, but this one is smaller, so that would, I don't dispute that it would sell for, higher rate typically for that use. Comparable to, this again located on Dufferin Avenue. So you can see here, this is just a rectangular shaped piece of land. There's a back lane in the back there. Again, this one's slightly smaller too than the subject. But this is where it's located. Again, just a rectangular shaped piece of land, very basic. Comparable number 3, this is located on Plinkett Street. So at the top you can see the zoomed in photo, and then further back you can see just more of an idea of where it's located. Again, this is just more of the kind of the mission industrial area of the city. Again, just a rectangular shaped piece of land. Comparable 4, this is located on Jarvis Avenue, or Powers, Jarvis and Powers. So you can see where this is located, and you can see the shape of the site. Again, this one has a bit better access and more visibility than the subject. Similar size, but again, as I say, it would be, you could argue it to be superior due to the access and the superior visibility. And then lastly, comparable number 5, this is located on Erin Street. So you can see here, this is probably the most similar in size to the subject. You can see here, this particular lot is just being used for parking at the moment. It does have better access in terms of visibility than the subject. I won't dispute that. So, but it would be a similar use to what the subject is. And as I indicated, the subject is essentially an old parking lot that I'm not sure if it's being currently used at this time. Obviously, just from what I can tell, it doesn't look like it is. So, I will note some of the comparisons. Would be maybe more developable in the sense of what their visibility, and they would have to be a bit more superior in that sense. So but yeah, that's kind of a range of comparables. I've shown some smaller, some larger. So page 14 of my brief, you'll just see the land summary. Again, just $183,000 we're assessing on its land value. And then pages 15 and 16 are just some municipal assessment act reserve information. And I believe that concludes my presentation. I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Neufeld, do you have any questions for the assessor on this property?
Yes, I do. Just one. Sorry, I was just I'm having a big problem on my screen trying to sort out all the stuff open here. So I just I had to find the report. And okay. You were mentioning parking. So who would this be? Which building is getting the parking from here?
Well, I was saying it was like an old parking lot. I'm assuming at one point, obviously, as you can tell, it's got like the floodlights and some lines there. So obviously, the only building is it's owned by a different owner than the one above it. But so I'm not sure at the time who was using it. But
Okay. Well, I mean, are you aware whether or not it's associated with the building to the south?
no, I was not aware of that. I mean,
No, but I'm not putting forward it is or it isn't.
oh, okay. No,
did you look into it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a different owner, so I wasn't aware of it. So,
Right. So on its own, I mean, most of these ones you brought forward, aren't they all parts of the property next door?
For the comparisons,
I was just looking at them, and they all seem to be affiliated with like the one in Provencher. I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know if you looked into it.
I mean, for example, the one in Provencher, the one adjacent to it. Let's see. Let me just check it quickly. I believe the one in Provencher, the one just adjacent to the left or to the right. Yes, there's the same owner on that one. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Provencher and Plinkett and are both like in a predominantly residential area, aren't they? I mean, I'm just looking. There's houses next door, correct?
Well, Plinkett, it's like I'd say it's there's a lot of industrial there. I mean, yeah, there is a few houses there, but it's predominantly industrial from every time I've been down there. So.
And then Powers, is that a separate lot or is that part of the 4 lots that you are showing?
Give me a moment, I can check for you here.
I mean, there's stuff on the boundary to the two lots to the south. They seem to be open to it.
Let's see here, and I think, and the one below it, you just check here. No, actually, all the four there are, the ones at the bottom are owned by the same owner, but the land sale comparable, it's actually different owners, so.
I'm just looking at the picture on page 12.
Oh, okay, sure. Yes, I see what you're saying. Oh, you mean the one adjacent to, I see what you're saying. Okay. Well,
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, you're straightforward with us, and you said that there are influences that, but I guess then my question is, you haven't really checked into those influences.
well, like I said, some of these would be more developable and better visibility and access. So I wouldn't argue that they would be superior in that sense. So.
Um, and as far as the parts of town, they tend to be your comparables are a fair amount from St. Boniface, correct?
I believe out of the three, yes, there's at least three of them. Two of them are in St. Boniface. One is on Dufferin, Jarvis. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, I do have one more question.
No problem.
On your subject, you're stating no sewer, no water.
That's what we have as an influence, correct? Yes.
So does that mean not available or not paid for? What does that mean in your system?
Well, essentially, we've just noted that it doesn't currently have it. So, I mean, I'm sure they can maybe tie into a line, but I don't believe it's just currently there is no sewer and water on that site, I guess, if you will.
Okay. Has anyone gone to the trouble to see if it was what could be hooked up?
I'm not aware at this moment. No, I'd have to take a more in-depth look in that.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions for the assessor?
Thank you. My question related to the sewer and water as well. That isn't noted as a land influence on the comparables. Are you aware if they have sewer and water?
Yeah, I mean, I like I kind of was saying to the, Mr. Newton was asking me, some of these, for example, as far as I know, comparables 1 through 1 through 3, or 1 through 4 do. Comparable number 5, I don't know. But I mean, I know I haven't listed it, but I'd have to do some more research into that. So, but as far as I know, I believe they do. So.
Okay. And your comparables, like particularly comparable, well, 4 of them are much higher than the square foot rate that you've applied to the subject property that the models applied, I trust. I'm just wondering, was there none closer to?
Yeah, like I said, when it comes to land sales, honestly, in the perfect world, you can find the most closest. So I tried to find ones that are similar as possible. Like when it comes to sizes, yes, it's going to be difficult. So, yes, I won't dispute some of these are slightly smaller, which would, have a higher rate on itself in itself. The comparables 4 and 5 are the closest in terms of size. But yes, like I mean, I said, just difficulty in finding recent comparable sales, if you will. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Mr. Arnell, any questions for the assessor?
No, my question's been answered. Thanks.
This subject property appears to be, in terms of the length or width to length ratio, seems to be quite a bit longer than it is wider. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit, lengthwise you could say than it is in terms of width. Yeah.
Would that affect the value of the land?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, it's, shape, size, those do have influences on the overall land. Yeah.
On that basis, would comparable to be a good comparison, just on that basis only?
I mean, it's similar in the sense of like, yeah, it's similar in the sense of the size, obviously. But again, obviously being indifferent, it does have a little bit better access, so I'm not disputing that, obviously. But yeah, in terms of, similar size, this one is a bit smaller though, obviously, right, than the subject. Um, comparable 5, which is a bit older, that one is more, I think, closer in size and shape to the subject. If I had to compare one, I guess, but again, it's a bit older sale, so, but.
I have no further questions. Now, before we proceed with the applicant's presentation, I just need to address again the late submission of this particular item. It was received day late. However, the board has considered all of the properties today that were late submissions, and we have ruled on that already, and we are accepting the applicant's evidence for item 2, the one that we're on. So you may proceed with the presentation, Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you. So the property is, I'm characterizing it as abandoned, and that I haven't been out to look at it at all. This is a new property for us this year. The history behind it is that it is accessory parking for Manitoba government, and they're in 1567 Dublin, which is the building that's, see if I have my picture of it here. No, I'll refer you to the assessor's picture on his page 2. So the building where Manitoba Curriculum Assessment is in, it's the U-shaped building immediately west of the subject. And so with the Manitoba government leases, they always require parking in them. And at the time they needed this for overflow parking to meet the lease contract. So they've since downsized and changed the use of it. So it's not, that's why it's no longer in use. It's still marked as of, sorry, I was just looking at the street view on it as of 2023 as being a Manitoba parking lot, but it's, as you can see from the pictures, it's definitely not in use. Weeds are overgrown. It was electrified, and it does have lighting, but it's no longer being kept up. And so the prospects for it as a overflow parking lot in this neighborhood are low. So I guess that's our grounds for appeal. As to the configuration of it, the problem, of course, has to be with being able to develop something on the site that can make use of it. The dimensions on it are on our page 3, and at the top page, so it's 20 meters wide by 68 meters long. The problem has been the 20-meter width, which is about 60. That's a chain, isn't it? I think that's 66 feet. When you put a building on, then you don't have access to front and rear. So of course, there is absolutely no room for semi-trailers on this lot. And in an industrial M3 zone neighborhood, that's one of the first things you look at. So you're looking at a diminished use for it if one were to be available. There are small industrial uses that could possibly utilize it. And I don't know at this date if they're attempting to market it or whether it's in a holding pattern, hoping that another tenant moves in and needs parking in the area. This is Orphan Day here. These are all the lots you're going to hear today are vacant for a market reason. They aren't waiting to be sold, and there's not a ton of people lining up to buy them. They're not actively obtaining a price. So if you compare them to the active market, it's not accepting that their problems, their issues. This one being a rearage lot with marginal frontage and an irregular shape. We don't have any similar sales that are in the same category. This would typically be marketed to the people next door to expand their lot. That would be the best use for it if they were the least bit interested in it. And that's called an assemblage sale. When we looked at it, and I appreciate the assessor went and looked at a lot of smaller lots, all of which appeared to be in use. This one is not. This was just a guess on our part at essentially 350 a square foot, which is I have to convert that to acres. Yeah, 150,000 a square an acre, which is just at the lower end of the range of industrial lots. I have the same three comps I used last time, and I was trying to stick to the northwest quadrant in the city as close as possible. It's more likely, it's very similar to the one we had looked at Logan, except in size. This all boils down to the highest and best use. It's being used for a parking lot in an industrial neighborhood as a pay lot, and it's too small to accommodate an industrial use. So it's lost the best use for this neighborhood and has been relegated to second-class usage. As I mentioned, it's Orphan Day today. That's no real market sales for this sort of lot that's in this position. I would also mention the problem with small lots are the setbacks as well. There's two setbacks to be concerned about here. One are the city zoning setbacks, and this one requires a 15-foot interior side yard and a 25-foot setback for frontage. So once you take that off, you don't really have a lot of land left. And the other problem with it was sorry, I'm just looking at yeah. Oh no, that's all I. Yes, there is a railway to the north of it. It is some distance away. It looks to be a healthy distance away, so I don't think that's a factor. But so it's just the single factor in the setbacks. Leaving a 66-foot lot, once you take the 15 feet away on the interior corner yard, then you get a 51-foot lot. And a 51-foot lot, and you're going to put a building on that, an industrial building, you have a limited appeal. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Harding, do you have any questions on the applicant's presentation?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Arnell, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions at this time.
Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions.
I have no questions. Therefore, this concludes the matter on this property.
Sorry, I just had one comment on summation here.
Oh, sorry, yeah, summations.
The subject lands were a parking lot. And I mean, the city has parking lot valuation, and perhaps this should have been done that way. And if you count the 3 cars you've seen in the lot, it's not generating a lot of income. That was my summation.
Mr. Harling, anything in summation?
No, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, therefore, this will conclude this property. been almost an hour and a half, so I think we need to take a bit of a break. So let's go with 10:30, back at 10:30. Okay, we are back in order. We will proceed with the next item, number 3, 2670 Saskatchewan Avenue. A preliminary item we need to address is the late submission of the applicant's information. So we are going to go in camera and consider that issue. Okay, we are back in order. The board has considered the late submission issue for the applicant, and we have decided that we will hear the information. We'll accept the information and we will hear it. So we may proceed with the item number 3, 2670 Saskatchewan Avenue, appeal on value. You may proceed, Mr. Harding, with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 24-3977. The roll number is 07-569-110500, and the address is 2670 Saskatchewan Avenue. The owner is Her Majesty the Queen in the Right of Canada, Winnipeg Airports Authority Incorporated. 2025 assessed value based on a record date of April 1st, 2023 is $2,677,000. If you look below my brief on the property description, we'll see it's a Bindu or Vic Industrial. It is zoned M2 Manufacturing General, and the land area is 612,660 square feet, or roughly 14.065 acres. If we turn to page 2 of my brief, at the top there, where the dot is, you'll see where the subject property is located. Just a Google Maps image. Again, this is located on Saskatchewan Avenue. If we turn to page 3, apologize, the picture's a little blurry, but this is kind of a, I'll have a better outline for the pictures, but this is essentially where the subject's located, where you can see the little red dot. Now, if we turn to page 4 of my brief, you can actually see the subject property in its entirety. So again, where it's outlined in purple there, or red, I should say, where it's outlined. So this is the entire subject property we're dealing with today. And if you go to page 5, you'll just see a more closer image of that property. Again, outlined in purple or in pink. I apologize. Now, if we continue to page 6, this is obviously a very, irregularly shaped parcel. So I try to show some other views of it. So at the top of page 6, this is just a side view of the subject, just from the front. And at the just below that, this is the other portion of it is just going north of that of the property, just to showing the entire shape of the property in its entirety. So just to get an idea, so the board can see and everyone can see how it's the shape of the parcel. And at the bottom of page 6, this is just the front entrance to the subject, front entrance to it, street image view. Now, if we go to the page 7 of my brief, you see the overall valuation. So now the total land value is $2,677,000. The land value is $2,675,000. As you can just kind of see there under the valuation, we are assessing $2,000 of depreciated cost for a fence that surrounds the property. So if the board have any questions on that, that's what I can just want to let you know that's where that came from. So that $2,000 plus the $2,675,000 is the total value. Gives you the total value of $2,677,000. So obviously the value is in the land clearly. So, but we just have that the depreciated cost there. If you look under the bottom page 7, you'll see there are no recent sales in the subject. Now if we turn to page 8, you'll just see the zoning. You can see the shape of the parcel. Again, it's Vindu, M2 zoning, and just a brief description of what can be built on an M2 zoned parcel of land. Turning to page 9 of my brief, you'll just see the subject information as well as the land sale comparables. So the subject again is 612,660 square feet, roughly 14.065 acres. It is zoned M2 Manufacturing General, and some of the land influences are a rail line and as the overall shape of the subject. Look at the bottom of page 9 under the land valuation. You'll see we're applying a land rate of $4.37 a square foot, which gives us the total land value of $2,675,000. So some of the comparisons here are shown here. I'm trying to find comparables of larger parcels of land. being such a large parcel, it does make it a bit more challenging to find comparisons. So these are the comparables I've supplied here. So the first comparable is located on Black Diamond Boulevard, so the St. Boniface Industrial Park. It's a Vindu or vacant industrial. It's 415,529 square feet, or roughly 9.539 acres. It is zoned M3 manufacturing heavy, and you can see some of the influences are no sewer, no water, retention pond, influence, and a rail line. And this one sold on January 2022 for $5.08 a square foot. The second comparison, this is located just off of Oak Point Highway. This is 453,099 square feet, roughly 10.402 acres, zoned for M1 manufacturing light. Some of the influences are no sewer, no water, and limited access. And this one sold on October 20th, 2022 for $12.62 a square foot. Comparable 3 is located on 733 Lajimodi Boulevard. So again, this is more in the north portion of the city. It's 523,314 square feet, or roughly 12.14 acres, zoned for M1 manufacturing light. And some of those influences are heavy traffic, cement, and rail line. And this one sold on August 2nd, 2019 for $4.87 a square foot. And finally, comparable 4, this is located in the Eastern Industrial. This is 653,069 square feet, roughly 14.992 acres, zoned M1 manufacturing light, and sold on March 27th, 2019 for $9.07 a square foot. So those are the comparisons, sale comparisons I've shown. And now I can show you the photos of the subjects, or the comparisons. So comparable 1 here, this is located again in the St. Boniface Industrial Park on Black Diamond Boulevard. So you can see this one here, obviously the way it's shaped. This definitely, you could argue that would be definitely a better shape than the subject. Obviously, the subject, as you've seen, is irregularly shaped, more like a triangle shaped as it goes north of the bottom of the property. So this is the one comparison. Again, trying to find comparables of larger size was my intention here. Now, comparable 2, this is located up Oak Point Highway. So you can see here, this is a bit off of the beaten path here a bit. Slightly irregularly shaped, with a bit of a another piece of triangular shaped land at the bottom here. This is the second comparable. Comparable 3, this is one again located on Lajimodi Boulevard, as I indicated. So you can see here, slightly irregular shaped. And I will note, to get access to this, you actually have to drive from another property zone by another property owner. But this is you could argue this is definitely superior in terms of its shape compared to the subject. But again, trying to find a larger size comparisons. And then last thing, comparable 4 here. This is actually just above another comparable I had used previously that we spoke to, located in the Eastern Industrial Park, or off of Haggard Avenue. So yeah, this one is definitely more of a nice square-shaped piece of land. It's got definitely a bit more. It's got better visibility and access. So I'm not disputing that. Obviously, this would be a bit superior, but again, difficulty in finding larger size comparisons. Henceforth, why I've shown this comparable. So again, if we go to page 14 of my brief, you'll just see the land building summary. Again, the land value we're assessing at $2,675,000. And again, as I indicated, there's a $2,000 of depreciated cost per fence that we're assessing, which gives us a total assessed value of $2,677,000. And pages 15 and 16 of my brief are just the municipal assessment accurate information. And I believe that concludes the presentation. I am open for questions. Thank you.
Mr. Neufeld, any questions for the assessor?
Yes. Page 1. You didn't get the owner right, did you?
Let's see here. That's what we have in terms of our system, unless there has been a recent sale or something I'm not aware of.
Well, there's a king now, not a queen.
Well, yes, you're right. I apologize. You're right. I did. That's funny. I was looking at it yesterday, and I am aware of that.
I thought they did that automatically. Okay.
No, I know what you mean. We have to convert some of those. I agree.
Yeah. No, so the land is owned it's under license to the Winnipeg Airport Authority. Did you check into the Airport Authority's usage policies?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't really dig into that too much deep into. So.
And you're aware there's a master lease between His Majesty the King and the Airport Authority?
I'm aware there is that in place, yes. I don't know the specifics, but I am aware of that, yes.
I was just looking for it. I have it somewhere, but did you read it or check into it on whether or not this can be developed?
I don't have the specifics of that, no, I apologize.
Okay. And on your picture, you did mention on the irregular shape of it. Now, I'm looking on page 4, and you've got the drawing there. So, can you tell us about the rail line to the north? Is it a main line or a spur?
I believe, I don't believe it's a main line to my best of my knowledge. Well, it is owned by the Canadian Pacific Railway Company, so I don't know.
Right.
I don't believe it's main, but yeah.
Okay. And there's also a rail line on the south side of the property as well, correct?
Yes, I believe, yes, there is, correct. Yes, I see that one. Yes.
And did you determine if that was a spur or a main line?
That I believe that's a city lease, actually, that one.
Pardon me?
I believe that one's a city lease with Winnipeg, I believe, so.
It has a name. Usually they have a name if they're main lines, and if they have a spur, they don't have a name.
Let me
Do you have
see,
the name of it?
I apologize, no, I can't seem to find the name on this, so.
Okay. No, it's fine. I would just are there any building improvements on the subject land?
No, from, my knowledge, it's just essentially being used for storing, random pieces of equipment in trucks and stuff, so.
So yeah, now I know. So that the line that's there on the south of the subject property, that ends up arcing immediately down south, correct?
That is correct, yes, yes.
And at the point where the approach is made, is there still a rail line in place there?
As far as I know, the rail line still is there, yes.
Okay. So what? Yeah, it actually ends at the at the property line, but
Yes.
so we have a property that's bounded by rail right-of-ways on the north and the south, correct?
That is correct.
And have you investigated the current situation regarding getting permission to develop beside the railway right-of-ways?
I don't know the specifics on this one. Obviously, I know there would be some setbacks and such, but yes, I'm not the specific to the privy of all the information.
Okay. Well, I had noted that there were a fair amount for example, if you look at your picture of the subject property, on the properties to the left, there are actually boundaries for this right of way, and they go all the way up until halfway through the subject property, and all of a sudden the right of way ends. Did you note that?
I'm aware of that. Where I do know that is, yes, I was aware of that. But yes.
So at that juncture on the north of the property, the lot line is on the rail, correct?
I mean, it's, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess what I'm looking at here, it doesn't look like it's very close. I don't think it's touching it, from my understanding. So, but as far as I can tell in our system here, but I'm looking at the image. But
Well, but it's right up against it. There is no setback as there is down below, is there?
yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And did you notice the change in the? Did you measure at all the difference in the right of ways on the property?
I did not measure the specifics. No, like I said, I'm mindful of the shape. That definitely would, have to be.
Okay. Did you review this with your records? I think I'm asking this question because in previous appeals, we have been able to come to agreement on the unusable portion of this land. And did you have a chance to review that at all?
No, but I'm aware of that. So that was something that I definitely noted, that obviously going forward, I will definitely take a look at that. But no, in this case, I have not.
Okay. And so I see what you're saying. So your picture on page 6, that's a blow up of where the lot line gets closer to the rail line.
Correct. Yeah, I tried. Yeah, exactly. Try to show it as an entirety. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's like you're right. It's not right against, but it's still very close, and I got no setbacks and such. Right. So.
And your subject, your comparables are St. Boniface, Oak Point, Symington, and North Inkster. No St. James lands. Just out of curiosity, nothing there.
I mean, like I said, it's seeing as it's a very large piece of land. Yeah, I was, trying to find recent land sales compares of larger sizes. That's, trying to find the best similar size, but yeah, I don't have it there.
Did you happen to review any of the expropriation sales that occurred on this rail line a bit further west?
The expropriation sales, I have not.
I just wanted to see here, you're marking this now in your site influences. You only list rail line in shape. Are you suggesting that the site has water and sewer?
As far as I can tell, let me see if I can find that. I don't believe there's any tie-ins that I'm aware of, so that may be something I would have to look into as well. But yeah, I don't believe it does.
No, okay. Yeah, I just waiting for, I thought it would have been there.
Sorry, Mr. Harding, can you repeat your last answer, please?
I was saying that looking into I don't believe there's sewer and water on the site.
No sewer and water?
There's no sewer and no water yet.
Okay, thank you. Carry on, please, Mr. DeFell.
So comparable number one, this is located in St. Boniface Industrial, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And the rail line that's being referred to there is the line that's immediately north of that property? Is that correct?
Yes, correct, yeah.
And that is a rail line, you understand that's a rail line that was installed for the use of the tenants as a spur?
I was not aware of the spur line for that particular property, no.
Okay, and so, but there is a difference between a spur and a main line, correct?
Oh, yes, no, I don't dispute that, correct.
And you state that this has, I was just looking at your summary on this, you're saying no sewer, no water, retention pond influence. The St. Boniface Industrial, are you saying that it's not serviced with sewer and water, or this lot hasn't been hooked up yet?
When this property sold, it didn't have sewer and water access at the time. So as far as I know at this time, I don't believe it still does, but I have to take a look. Let me just check here if I can use.
Well, there's a retention pond, and a retention pond uses drainage lines from the land drainage system. It's got to run very, very close to the property, and they bury the water and the sanitary in the same place. So isn't this just a question of not being hooked up yet?
Well, yeah, like the services would be around there. Yes, I'm not,
Okay.
not disputing that. Yeah, so yeah, of course.
Now, in reference to the subject, how do you bring the services in to the subject?
I mean, the only way you'd have to be able to tie it in. I believe the only parcel that's adjacent to it has water sewer, so you can tie in that way. I guess the only way you can do it. But you're right, it would definitely be some development costs to do that.
Well, you don't share water lines and sewer lines to service your property. You can share the main. Where's the main running on Saskatchewan? Do you know?
I believe it is. Let me see if I can find it. I believe it may be on the other side of the street potentially here.
Yeah.
Also.
Well, I think you're correct. So, but for the subject, don't you have to get permission from the rail to bury a line under their property?
Oh, of course you'd have to speak to
Okay.
them first. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
There are some obstacles, is what I'm putting forward to you. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's not. I'm not disputing that at all. No.
Okay. Now, number two, this is the one in red, correct?
Correct.
And this is again on Oak Point. Now, what is the parcel that's between the rail line and this subject and this comparable property? Have they set up a widened protection zone for the rail?
As far as I know, I'm not entirely sure to know. So.
Well, I was looking at the property next door whose lot line is closer to the rail line, but this one isn't. Does this reflect a change from the 2013 report on the after the Lac Megantic fiasco?
I'm not entirely aware of that. So
Okay, I'm gonna, but it is an additional setback that the neighbors don't have, correct?
the ones below, yes, correct, they don't. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and comparable 3, is there rail there anywhere?
On Lagimodier, I believe I know it's close to there, but I don't know if it's exactly on there. Let me quick peek here for you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at for rail on this one.
There, just a second here. I don't think it's you know what? There is. Let me just see below here. No, that's not a rail line there. I mean, no, the property above it, just north of it, that they would be close to the rail line, but not this particular one.
Right, okay, yeah. And the one on, oh, this is, and this other one, Haggard, there's no rail on near
No,
Haggard,
correct.
is there? Okay. Oh, the properties you brought forward as comparables, can they be built on?
You know what? Yes, like I mean, they could be built on, correct. Yeah, number one, obviously, yes, I don't dispute those yet. 2, 3.
But, and you're not aware of actually the 3 layers of lease on the subject land? You haven't read any sort of the conditions that are in them
I have
then?
not read the current.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Ms. Anderson, any questions for the assessor?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Arnell, any questions for the assessor? You're muted. You're muted, Mr. Arnell.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Going back to a question Mr. Neufeld asked, there is restrictions on this property or there is not? Building restrictions?
As far as I know, I mean, Mr. Neufeld would have more information on that. Like I said, I haven't read the lease agreement, so I don't know the specifics of. I mean, obviously being close to a rail line, there would be some setbacks and some of those things of nature. But in terms of the restrictions, I don't have the exact.
Okay, that's the only question I had. Thank you.
So how did the model deal with the irregular shape of this lot? How did it consider that?
I mean, you know, like I said, we have different land influences, so we've indicated it is irregularly shaped. So, you know, trying to find comparables, you know, the best what we try to do is try and find similar sales comparisons that have irregular shapes, and you know, it would make an adjustment based on that. But I don't have the specific information of, you know, about a breakdown, if you will. So, but we're acknowledging that it is irregularly shaped and has some issues, obviously. So.
Well, you acknowledge it, but did it change the value or did it affect the value?
Yeah, they typically, yeah, it would adjust it. It would make an adjustment, yes. I don't have the specific information on that though, so.
What's your estimation on how much it affected it?
I honestly, yeah, I don't have an exact figure. I apologize. So yeah.
So these other comparisons, you could consider them irregular, but they're certainly not nearly as irregular as the subject property. Would that be a fair characterization?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like I said, you know, trying to find, you know, being such a large piece of land, it's hard to find comparisons. Again, being shaped as well, right? It makes it much more difficult. So, but yeah, you know, some of them are regularly shaped, but yeah, exactly. This one definitely is a bit more regular. But again, you know, I will note that some of these sold for a lot higher price per square foot than the subject, but again, it's a difficult one to deal with, yeah. So
I have no further questions. Thank you. So, Mr. Neufeld, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. Okay. So the land is owned by the Crown, and under the privatization of the airport authorities in 1993, a master lease was done up with the airport authority, subject to the restrictions of lands in the aerodrome being maintained for that particular usage. This is one of those parcels. The lots to the west of it have different arrangements. They all predate the transfer to the airport authority. I think some are in the Crown's name, and some are in private hands. The restriction on usage is that there are no improvements to be built. Now, you could make application to build an improvement on this, but as the Crown isn't going to sell it, and as a result, if you put a building on it, you have to go into what's called a vesting program, and it's a design that they came up with in the 1920s and 1930s when airports were being built across the country. The Crown wished to retain control. They allowed you to build your improvement, but at that point, the Crown owns it, and it's restrictive on being able to market it. There are a very complex set of rules and arbitration factors, but the point is that it does not contain the same rights to build as a fee simple title. Fee simple title has the right to use it, to not use it, to rent it, to sell it. They have none of those rights, and the building one is the important one. They do not have the right to build. Now, this is being used by MacDon for their storage of their tractors, not their tractors, their implements that they make. And for them, it's great. They're right across the street. This is their outside storage facility, and outside storage works for them. In previous years, what we've done is we've discussed this with the assessor, and nothing against Matthew, and we just never had a chance to talk. That on our page 2, this was the accepted measurement, 7.79 acres. And it's just a squared off version of the main lot. The rest of it is not only not usable, it's not buildable, and it gets into the railway protection area. Now, in Winnipeg, the actual setback for a rail is a 30-meter width of the track, which is 100 feet, 50 either side. Recently, in 2013, after the crash in Quebec, all the communities, cities, Winnipeg included, said we would like to see 200 feet on both sides, along with a berm and other safety measures. So what you see in the assessor's comparables is the impact of that on modern planning, and specifically his comparable on his page 11, where the new property had an additional setback from the main line to take those into consideration. These are not enacted into law. However, if you try to get a planning permit for development, you're going to face them because the boards are now considering it on it. So in the subject lands, the portion in the extreme north is completely unusable. It just happens to be on the title, but due to the setbacks that would be put on it, and the rest is with the additional controls is really not of any value on the subject lands, and so you can see where we drew our lines as compared to the assessor, as far as a comparable, absolutely none of these properties are comparable. Not the assessor's, not mine, because this is land held under title with restrictive use. It doesn't get sold. You will not find a sales comparable. So we go through a table, the process of trying to comparable, you're not going to find ones. You can get ones that are close, but, and I'm getting on my soapbox here, in appraisal, everybody has to understand that you do not sell the dirt on the land. You're selling the rights. It's always the rights. The rights on this are limited, and that's what has to be taken into account, and because the lands don't sell. So as far as comparison went, I mean, I looked at this, and the closest I thought, and it's not even in the same category, was Meridian, the one I discussed earlier, because as I told you, the roads weren't in, and I believe that the sewers hadn't been put in. Now on the subject land, just to get to the sewers, they're not going to get put in because there's a rail line in front of it. You need permission to go under. All those ones down the street were granted in the mid-60s. They're not granting them anymore, and on top of it, the airport authority doesn't want anyone to put in their own sewer system, because it's still their land. They want it as a long-term hold for the benefit of industry that's located on the aerodrome. The and that's as close as we could find, and it's somewhat close to the same size. But again, there is really no such thing as the perfect comparable. This is a hypothetical calculation. Now, if you could possibly capitalize the ground rent, which I believe is $1, so that's not going to work. There was a land swap between the two parties at one point in their history, and this was a part of the negotiation. So it's not really a market situation. And and it was also a usage that the airport authority liked, one that was not going to be invasive or bother their operations on it, because there were no improvements being built. It was tractor parking. The only thing they put on was the paving and the fence. Now, so not the paving, the ground preparation, the compacted earth, and the fencing. So as far as the rights go, that is the limit of it. You know, if another way of looking at it is, we used 14.1 acres, which is the total times a $70,000 rate. Another way of looking at it is looking at the usable 7.79 acres and looking at a higher rate, which incidentally would be at the value I've indicated here would be 190. No, sorry, 7.79. It was, I just had it on my machine, something like 160, $170,000 per acre, which is also another way of valuation. And as a matter of fact, the assessor's value per acre is not that bad if he was applying it to the usable area. I don't know if anybody wants to hear any more long, boring facts about my investigation on this, but I was for a while employed by Transport Canada in aviation, and so what I'm telling you about the land usage, I have many things I've done in my life, and that was one of them. And I was involved in the actual transactions between Airport Authority and MacDon, the owner, as I was their consultant, or am still their consultant. So this is, again, when I ramble on and on about stuff, it's firsthand stuff, not hearsay, not assumptions unless I've told you so. It's firsthand information. So you will not get servicing, 2 sets of railways, which is 2 sets of rights to deal with. And incidentally, that crossing that they have would not be granted again, because the railways are not giving people permission to cross their lines as easily as they have in the past. Anything involving a main line will not get a crossing. Not like this. There's a lot of hoops to go through. These are all uncontrolled crossings as well. That's my presentation. Thank you.
You, Mr. Harling, do you have any questions for the applicant?
You know, I guess just one. I guess this is already kind of spoke to. So like you said, obviously, like we both know this is a very unique property in itself. So like you said, trying to find the natural value you applied here, just using like this, you said the 285 Meridian you believe is the most comparison. And I know you indicated, you know, how much of the usage of the site, you know. So this, I guess, is it fair to say it's like kind of it's a tough one to value in the sense, just almost like estimating in a sense, just because it's really hard to value just based on all the issues, I guess, whatever. Like,
yeah, I think what you're doing here is sort of looking at the utility of it rather than the marketability of it. And there are different factors for valuation. The utility of it is MacDon's got tractor parking, and that's worth something to them. So I don't know if you can find a tax for ad valorem assessment in there, because this is, you know, valuation is always about rights. It's not utility. sometimes the two mesh, sometimes, this case, they don't. I think this was something that we always preferred to not debate at hearing, but to discuss amongst ourselves, but we've never had the chance.
Lost connection.
I don't have anything else to say.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's all the questions I have then. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to get.
Or
Can
any connections.
you guys hear us right now?
I can.
I can, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Your last answer, Rocky, I don't think anybody was able to hear it, so.
I think it was just us.
It's just us in the
Oh.
room.
Yeah, it's just our internet is unstable right now.
Well, I didn't hear it, so.
Oh, okay. Well,
If you
I'll
could
make
just
it.
briefly repeat.
Yeah, I'll make it shorter. Matthew had asked about whether or not we were dealing more with estimating, and I said yes, because we're not dealing with marketability, we're dealing with utility and trying to compare it to the utility of other sites. And in this case, the utility measures at about 7 acres. And I guess it's the principle of substitution we'd have to apply. What would 7 acres of unserviced land sell for on the utility side? And I had mentioned that he and I weren't that far off if we looked at it that way.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Arnell, any questions for the applicant?
Just clarification. So you're stating that there's only 7 acres usable of this property?
Well, that's my estimate, yeah. And if you look at the picture we made on page 2, we actually took an area that was larger than the compound that they're using, and looking at the size of the machinery they'd be parked and the setbacks required, that's about where we came to.
Okay. And you're stating that they wouldn't be able to service that property? Or they would have to apply to the railways?
You would have, yeah, you'd have multiple sets of approval. You'd have the city and the rail and the federal government to get approvals from, which is a lot more barriers. Typically, it's just the city that you have to deal with.
Okay, barriers, but not unserviceable.
Well, in today's climate, we're not seeing a lot of cooperation from the railways, and you got to go through a lot more hoops with them. But I think it's the federal government who would really not want this land to be serviced because they're not interested in having a development on their property.
Okay, that's all I had.
Ms. Anderson, any questions?
Just in regards to the property then, it being used by MacDon, they've got a sublease for it. Is that what MacDon has?
Yeah, that's correct. They have a sublease from the airport authority.
Okay, and
oh, sorry, you know what? Oh no, their lease was originally with the Crown. That's what I was looking for. It predated, or the Crown signed it back when the airport authority was in there. But now the airport authority, I believe, has taken over the interest.
okay, so the head lease, yeah, the airport authority has the head lease, and then they
Well,
can rent a sublease it?
yeah. That's I was looking for that to clarify. I somewhere in my files I have this information.
Okay, and just in that regard, like you indicated, it's improbable there would ever be a development on there. But there's always, would it be fair to say that accessory uses like parking that is being utilized as a storage facility that's secure, with the fact that in the airport area, those uses are valuable?
Yeah, what you see for sites like this, an accessory use that doesn't rely on an improvement, like parking, and is not noxious with any sort of hazards. At one point, there was Winnipeg's got 3 runways, and at one point they had this active runway at I think it was 0824, and this was on the approach path for it. That one's been decommissioned, so it is not as important anymore. But at the same time, 17 Wing has been taking space, more space there, as well as some private industry. So they're not they're trying to reserve it for that. A lot of the users on the off Saskatchewan now with Stars ambulances very close by, so they're not going to want to interfere with the helicopter routes, which are separate from the aircraft routes. There's specific helo routes, so they don't want anything that comes up in the air. And there's I guess there's 2 helicopter users right in the area next door to them. It's I didn't want to get into it because I'd bore you to death. I was an air traffic controller, and so we would control the airspace. I never worked in Winnipeg Airport, but there's a chart and it shows all these routes. So they don't want anything interfering with it that they can control. They're against urban development because it just means problems for them. And that's why they're always objecting to the developments in St. James. It's just like, so in this case, because they own it, they control it, that's why there won't be anything happening there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I have no questions for this. Been asked and answered. So, Mr. Harding, anything in summation?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Neufeld, anything in summation?
I think we've said it all. Thanks.
That concludes this property then. Item 3, 2670 Saskatchewan Avenue. We will then proceed with item 4, file 24-4052, roll number 1309-607-2200. We will preliminary issue we will address is the late submission of the applicant's evidence. It was a 1-day late situation. So the panel will go in camera and consider the issue and make a decision, and we will return. Yes. Okay, before I do that, Mr. Assessor, were there any issues with the on your side with the late information?
No, there's no issues. No.
Okay, we are back, and the panel has decided we will hear the information from the applicant. Are there any other preliminary issues before we proceed? Meet the party?
Nothing on my end.
I was wanting to make a suggestion. There are multiple parcels here. They're all in the same area, same owner, same issue. It could be expedient if we just dealt with them as one, if everyone is in agreement with it. Unless, the assessor, did you have a different number on each one, or were you similar?
Well, I mean, I guess the areas are slightly different, and the values I think are pretty similar, but there's still a bit difference in them, I guess. So, so there is some differences, but I know what you're saying though. I see what you're saying though. I mean, yes, I don't know what the board wants to do. I guess how the board wants to handle that, but
I think we would just proceed the way the docket is right now. Okay. So, there's nothing else then. So, Mr. Harding, you may begin your presentation.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number is 24-4052. The roll number is 1309-607-2200. There's no address on file, and the owner is 292-5924 Manitoba Limited. The 2025 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2023 is $165,000. If you look at the property description information, we'll see the property type is Vindu or vacant industrial. The subject is zoned as RR5 or rural residential 5. And the land area is 71,787 square feet, or roughly 1.648 acres. If we turn to page 2 of my brief, you'll see the subject property where it's located, just located on Logan Avenue here, at the top there with the little red dot. And at the bottom of page 2, you'll see where the subject located in the little green space here with the little red dot as well. Now, if we turn to page 2 of my brief, you'll actually see the, or 3, I apologize, you'll see the actual outlines of the subject properties we're dealing with here. So as you can see here, if you look at the top and the bottom, you'll see all these pieces of shapes of land are all in red, or the subjects we're dealing with for this particular property. So, you know, this one's a bit interesting. I'm sure Mr. Neufeld might have a bit more background. I tried to do some research, but I couldn't find a lot. But, you know, from my understanding, at one point, this was to be developed as some kind of residential use. So I don't believe it went through, or something maybe, you know, didn't go work down the line in terms of what they were planning, I guess, and they abandoned it, I'm believing. But you can even see at the top there, you can see the multiple streets, right? You can see where it says Elm Avenue, Moody Street, Miriam Avenue, Parent Street. So they clearly had some intentions of using the space for that. It is zoned RR5 rural residential, which I'll get into, but all these particular parcels are as one for this particular property we're dealing with here. So, you know, I'm not sure what the reasoning at the time when it was, why it was combined like that, but you know, generally when we get like property owners process due to free plots and such, we'll combine them into one. But this one's definitely a bit unique in a sense. So like I said, I just trying to give some background information. Like I said, it was to be some kind of residential use, but as you can see, currently it's just vacant land at this time. But this is how it's currently assessed with all these particular parcels on one roll number. So we continue to page 2. We'll just see the cost valuation summary. So we're just assessing on the land value at $165,000. And the last time the property sold was in October 5th, 2021 for $180,000. So if we turn to page 5 of my brief, again, you'll just see the actual highlight of the entire zoning of the area. So you can see all these pieces of land in here are all zoned the same as this RR5 rural residential. So again, just a description of that is this district is intended to provide areas for large lot rural residential development along with limited agricultural uses. So like I said, it's kind of interesting that it was to be developed in like a predominant industrial area. As I stated, I wasn't able to find, you know, a lot of information on what the history of this is or what their intentions were, but as you can see, it clearly didn't, you know, I guess they decided to scrap the idea, I believe, as far as I can tell. So, but this is how it currently is assessed and how we have it zoned. So nothing has changed at this time. So, so if we turn to page 6 of my brief, you'll just see the subject again. It's roughly 71,787 square feet with all those parcels, or 1.648 acres, zoned RR5 rural residential 5. Some of the influences are no sewer, no water. And if you look at the bottom under the land valuation, we're assessing it at $2.30 a square foot, which gives us the $165,000. And as I indicated previously, the last time this property sold, as all those parcels, was October 5th, 2021 for $180,000, or roughly $2.51 a square foot. Now, this being again a unique piece of land, and how it's situated and how it's zoned, there are sales that are just in the same vicinity, right in the same area. So I felt these are the closest comparables I could find that would be the most comparable. So I was just trying to find something that would be similar. So this is why I chose these comparisons. So, you know, I don't think I'll go into super depth of each one, but I'll just kind of give you an idea. So they range in size from 8,755 square feet to 25,260. In terms of say acreage, 0.201 acres to 0.580 acres. They're all zoned the same in RR5 rural residential. They all have similar issues in terms of no sewer, no water, limited access, you know, bus route. And these particular sales sold roughly from April 6, 2022, or sorry, I apologize, August 5th, 2021 to April 6, 2022, and they sold for roughly $6.53 a square foot to $10.66 square foot. As you can see, some of these are smaller than the subject, obviously. These are individual 3 comparables 1 through 3 sold as individual parcels, whereas comparable 4 is slightly larger. But again, this being a unique parcel, these were the best comparisons I felt I could find. So if we turn to page 7 of my brief, you'll actually see the subject comparable, the actual comparables. So comparable 1, you can see here, it's located in the same vicinity, it's just slightly below the subject. Comparable 2 is just in the corner on Logan, again, very just east of the comparable 1. Comparable 3, this is just again west or east of the first comparable, and then you can just see the bottom comparable 4. This is just north of the first comparable. So these are all in the same area. So these are what these sold for. So again, trying to find comparisons assessment for comparable sales. Obviously difficult to do the uniqueness of this, but so these are the comparables I applied just based on being in the same area, same zoning, similar issues. So page 9 of my brief, you'll see the classification liability allocation, just for assessing on land at $165,000. Again, using the residential code, class code. And pages in 10 through 11 are just the municipal assessment active reserve information. And then lastly, just in pages 12 through 17, there's just some status of title and the property sold, as well as the transfer of land documents as well. So just for in the addendum, just to show that it's sold for. But that being said, that concludes my presentation, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, any questions for the assessor?
Yes, so I'm just looking at page, sorry, the one with the, okay, page 3. This is where the individual lots, these all make up the roll,
Correct. Yes.
everything in red.
Yes.
Are these, excuse me, are these separate titles, or is it on one title?
As far as I know, it is on the one title. As far as I know, so.
Okay, the one title, and all of these lots then have frontage on a right-of-way, not a street, either Alma, Miriam, or Moody, correct?
Yeah, like I said, yeah, there's really no frontage. I agree. It's just the way it's set up. Yeah.
Now, I was just looking, for example, on the lot on the east side of Moody. And that would be, I think that's lot number 18 in Plan 1245.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so it has 11 meters of frontage and 30 meters of depth. What is the setback for side yards, front yards, and rear yards in RR5? Do you know offhand?
Offhand, I don't know. I apologize.
Oh, okay. If I tell you that it's 25 feet all around, how much land is left to build on?
Yeah, obviously there you would lose some. Yes, I don't dispute that.
You lose all of it. You have 11 meters frontage, which is about 35 feet. You got 25-foot setbacks each side. It's in the negatives. Now that follows through with most of these parcels, does it not?
Well, they'd be all the same zoning, so yeah, it would be the same setback.
Okay.
Yeah.
And RR5, you didn't include the minimum. Well, you did discuss the minimum, and that was on page 5. What is the minimum lot size to get to develop? Did you have that?
Offhand, I don't have that note.
Okay. So you know what the 5 in RR5 stands for? 5 acres minimum? Did you know that?
I was aware of that, though. Yes, correct.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
So you have about 1.6 acres of land. It's fair to say there's not a single legal use that could be put on these lands at the current time?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, yes, it's very, like I stated, this is very, unique. I don't know the history of the background, but yes, yeah, I'm not disputing that.
And these sales that you've listed, you did mention earlier on, it was obviously someone's attempt at assembling for a development. Is that what you were suggesting?
I mean, the only thing is I can say, yeah, in this particular time, for this particular parcel, yes, they assembled them for some type of development. I don't know what their intentions were, but yeah, exactly. So
now, if they were assembling for a development, what were they going to do with the street right of ways?
Yeah, I'm not sure what their intentions were. Yeah, I agree. So
well, who owns those street right of ways right now?
Well, that would be, actually, I don't, well, the city, I'm assuming, well, no, I don't even actually. Would be the,
Well, I'm looking at your picture, page 5. Those are private, the pink are the private ownership.
yes, those would be private, correct. Yes, those are private, yes.
So the streets are the cities, are they not?
It would be the street and cities, yes, that is.
Yeah,
correct.
okay.
Yes, correct.
Any idea when this was subdivided?
Offhand, no. I was trying to find some information. There wasn't a lot. I apologize. So I wasn't able to do it.
Okay.
Have to research, so.
No, it's in paper, so you'd never find it.
Okay, well, there you go.
So, and any investigation done in the likelihood of service?
In terms of service, no. Like I said, I know they are unserviced, obviously. So, but no, I don't have the breakdown of whether it would be serviceable and such. No.
So I take it that the assessment department seem to be relying heavily on the sales. Is that fair to say?
I mean, it's
In
very
the-
similar. It's very similar to the sale price. Obviously, we're slightly below it, but that could be part of the influence, yes. But like I said, it's difficult to value these just based on the uniqueness of it, right? So.
Yeah. Well, if someone, as you alluded to, was assembling them, is this not an assemblage value and a risk on as well that you could pull it off?
Oh yeah, there's some risk involved. Yeah, I won't dispute that. Yeah.
And does the definition of market value as defined by the Municipal Assessment Act conclude that risk value or assemblage value is something to be relied on for valuation?
No, I understand what you're saying. Yes. No.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ardell, any questions for the assessor?
No, just clarification on the RR5. So the required code is a 5-acre minimum building?
I mean, to my knowledge, I believe so. Like I said, I'd have to go further into the zoning. I'll be honest, I didn't do a specific deep analysis into the zoning. I'd have to look at the actual setbacks and such. But, perhaps if you give me a few minutes, I can just double check that to verify. So, let me see here. I'll just move on here. Lots of reach. Zipping fine. No, I don't want to, slow the process down. So maybe we can, I'll be honest, I have to do some more research instead. So, maybe you can leave that question for Mr. Neufeld. Maybe that might be best. So maybe this time.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Ms. Anderson, any questions for the assessor?
In regards to the property sale, you have noted the property sale in 2021. The value of it was $180,000, but it was multiple parcels. It was involved in a multi-parcel sale.
Well, the sale involved like all the subjects. Like if you look on page 3, with all the highlighted parcels, those were all included in the sale. Yeah. So.
Okay, and so the 180,000 was relative to this property, but in conjunction with all of them.
Yeah, as far as in terms of the sale price, the sale itself included all those parcels. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's my only question.
In terms of the zoning. For the Harrison. Oh, here we go. Some of those zoning issues, could zoning variances be applied for? In some of these situations?
It's I guess it's possible. Yes, like I said, like I said, trying to find some, like, as Mr. Neufeld alluded to, like, a lot of the documentations are on paper. So, like, I was trying to find some background information on what was their intentions or what happened, but I wasn't able to find a lot. But yeah, so, it's possible, I guess. Yeah. So,
So these other properties here that your comparables, they would have been subject to the same zoning restrictions as the subject property, correct?
yes, correct. They're all in the same location. Yeah. So they'd be the same zoning. Yeah. So,
I have no further questions. Thank you.
okay. Mr. Arnell, I just wanted to, if you have a second, I just wanted to answer your question you had previously.
Sure.
Yes, so yes, Mr. Neufeld, I wasn't trying to dispute his answer, but yes, he is correct. Yeah, like minimum lot would be 5 acres, so yes, correct. So,
Okay, thank you.
We can proceed with Mr. Neufeld's presentation. Please proceed, Mr. Neufeld.
Okay, told you it was Orphan Day here. I first wanted to give you the background on this. I'm going to refer to the assessor's page 3 because he's got a better picture than I do. And on the top picture, it shows the subject lots in the forest here. The owner, the guy who bought them, sorry, the people who bought them, was a family, also own the lot immediately west, where it says Omens Creek, just right of the word Omond. They also own the property immediately east, which is the long lot on top of the word marked Logan. So this land was between their two properties. So their motivation for it was a long term, and regardless of that, you know, the concept of value isn't the what you maybe can be one day. It's what it is that we have to look at, and what it is RR5 zone. So on what I have done is I was well, partially I'm lazy, but on page 1 we have the 2 sets of lots that they own that we're hearing today. They actually own more of the other ones as well. And I'm referring to the right-hand side of the page where I've marked 1.6 acres RR5 zoned. And now I only had 1.6 acres. The assessor had a number per square foot, and I noticed that his is a little bit different than mine. I extrapolated 1.6 acres to 69,000 square feet, and I don't disagree with his number of 71. I just never had the precise measurements. What we looked at was agricultural land, and well, RR5 and agricultural land. No RR5 sales in Winnipeg, except for Brady Road, that area, which is the Wilkes, South Wilkes. They have their own development plan, and then also South St. Anne's on the opposite side of on the south side of the perimeter highway. There were some RR5 zoning there as well. Those 2 sites have been developed with single family homes on 2-acre parcels, 2 to 5 acre parcels. That's the only place in Winnipeg where you're seeing it. And so they have the size to begin with, and a board member asked the question about a variance, and one of the things you can get a variance for is if you're an RR5 zoning and you don't hit the full 5 acres, say you have 2 acres, and by the way, 2 acres is a reason for it, then it might be possible to get a variance to build a house, not anything else, just a house. And the 2 acres, the minimum for septic field. That it's provincial law. You need a lot size of 2 acres to get a lot of record. So none of this pertains to the subject because they're at 1.6, and you know, if they combine their titles, it still wouldn't work because none of their land is contiguous. It's split up by the right-of-ways, which are owned by the city. And on our page 2, this is from the planning diagram that this is a city. Jim Addix does this, and it shows the borders. Now, one of the things on the way to read these maps is if you look across the first row, Alma Avenue, you'll notice that there are dotted lines between parcels and there are solid lines. So the solid lines represent a lot of record. The dotted lines indicate a survey land. So, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are one lot of record. 7, 8, 9 are a lot of record. 10 and 11 a lot of record. At the far end, number 18, that's the one I asked the assessor about. That's a lot of record. So the frontages are up front. Now, when you look at this map, lots and lots of things to consider. Number one, RR5 setbacks, 25 feet every border. Inside corner, outside corner, rear lot, front lot. Because these are considered to be 5-acre parcels, so 25 feet is not a big thing. Stay away from the highway. This precludes most all of them from any development, even if a variance were obtained, which again is not going to happen regardless. And the land also, like I said, then you have to deal with developing the roads, which are always the developer's responsibility. The city doesn't pay for it. And then you have to bring in services and pay for it. None of this has happened. There hasn't even been an investigation if services are available. And I'm only bringing this up verbally because it's a developing issue. The city of Winnipeg has started to deny sewer applications due to lack of ability to service the sites. And it's been coming up all across the city because they've reached the point of the system is no longer able to support more development. One would need to do the requirement today for a development is you got to come in and have an engineer do a capacity analysis to see if you can develop the lands. It's just another problem in doing this. So all these lots here with the lots of record preclude that. Now, I was asking the assessor if he knew the date. One of the ways of finding out is this is in Plan 1245. Downtown Winnipeg is Plan 129, which was written in the 1880s. I looked once up, I had some lots in Fort Garry that were at around 1,000 and they were titled in 1910. So this would be in and around that era, 1920, 1910, that these lots were subdivided, surveyed and subdivided. So in 100 years, nobody's done anything with it. And all around it, the land has gone to industrial. And I imagine no one's ever made application to change it from RR5, but it's a residential usage. On page 5 are the bulk zoning regulations. So RR5, it's a minimum lot area of 5 acres. With every setback is 25 feet. Side yard, rear yard, front yard, reverse corner, street side yard. So that doesn't leave you any space to develop on most all these lots. And that's because, like I said, it was envisioned for a 5-acre development. I did not put in the use table, but I can verbally give you the uses that are approved in RR5 because there's only 5 of them. You can do a park, a post office, 4, a park, a post office, 1 house if you have 5 acres, or you can farm it. Now, I think you can farm it underneath the 5-acre minimum, but of course only your little lot. You can't legally farm the city streets. And that's what it is. So our conclusion is that you need to get the zoning changed to develop this, to do anything with it. You need the zoning change. You need to buy the city right of ways. And some of them you can buy without a problem. The owner, if he had control of all the lots, could buy all the back lanes, could buy Moody and Miriam, could not buy Alma, could not buy Parent, because those are on somebody else's land. You need their permission or approval to do it. And it's not an easy process. It's best to own all of the land on the side, not just one of the streets. The issue in buying a city right away is all the potential users or potential users have to agree to it, and maybe they won't because they want to buy it themselves. But every time we go to city council to try to get a lane closure done, it's extremely difficult. and objectionable, and they rarely ever go through. So but that is the city process. So, and there's no servicing. So servicing, the load has to be determined by an engineer, and can the system fulfill it? And then you have to make sure that the local lines have capacity. And the one I never brought up will be the road improvement. And I don't know if I showed you a street view of this. I didn't do one. I've been down this many, many times. This is a horrible stretch of road, potholes everywhere, wrecked by the trucks. So the owner does have to do off-site improvements. So there might be a road upgrade required. And if he doesn't do it himself, the city will do it and then charge you back on street improvements. So it's not, it's a long-term thing. And I think the owner's goal was to acquire all of it, attempt to buy the lanes, and then then see if we can get a rezoning permission on it, and then get a development permit on it. It's obviously it's a long-term play, and so the question is, what is somebody willing to pay for a long-term play? And again, this is all verbal, because we had put a number of $1 a square foot on it, and normally, when I was doing the expropriation work on Centerport, and it was an effective year of 2010, but we only got to hearing about 2018, and by that time, in 2019, the city had said they're going to look at some repurposing lands to residential. Qualico was in and bought as much land as they could at $50,000 an acre. And they didn't have servicing. The roads were going to get in. They didn't have a guarantee of access yet. And but in their mind, for land banking, that was a good price to pay. And that is actually not located this far away, and it is within that year. I didn't bring any of those sales with me because some of them went through the LBAC. Some of them were in the RM of Rosser, and they were a whole bunch of lands. They were all agricultural zoned, but that's the holding amount. We had looked at the $50,000 number, and I was personally involved in some of these transactions. I met on behalf of my clients with Qualico when they presented offers, so I'm testifying to something I had firsthand knowledge of. I think that's a good number. And because these lots are small and further assemblage is required, I would discount that, which is why I used $1 a square foot, which is $43,560 an acre. And that's the as far as the valuation goes. And I did not shop this. I did go look in our community for a peer review on this with across Canada on evaluation methodology, because this is a different style of valuation. This is a holding value, and at the end of the day, again, with all of our orphans today, you're not going to get comparables. The best example I know of is the $50,000 an acre, and that's where we're going with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harling, any questions for the applicant?
I guess just maybe a general question, because I know you clearly have a lot more knowledge about this. So what was their intention to do with this, I guess, in the long term? Was there I mean, I know there's obviously the plans there with the residential development. Was their plan, was it to make condos or residential dwellings, or what was the intention, I guess? Or
Oh, no. I have to be careful because the clients don't really like you discussing their business. I know what their use was. It was for expanded usage of their industrial businesses. And they've had an incredibly difficult time finding land for their particular usage, which is a bit different. And looking for the right zoning. They bought lots on Brookside, in Rosser, in East St. Paul, in Winnipeg, of course, and um, mostly on very speculative basis to find lands that they could use. They bought the land on the west side overpriced, but they have a business demand, and now they hope to grow. And this was the long range idea. It's
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Harley?
sorry, not market based. That's
Okay.
what I want to say.
Okay, I guess just the other quick question is, no, I completely understand your position and everything you're looking at. So I'm just curious then, like, some of these smaller pieces of land that were purchased, what would be their intention for buying them then? I guess if they're buying them as a separate entity, like what would they be looking to really do with them? I guess then based on
Yeah, it was to get all of them and get the streets closed and try to get a rezoning on it.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Arnell?
Just one. So is it your client that purchased these properties for 180,000?
That's correct.
So wouldn't that saying that's what the value they're putting on them?
I was trying to say in the earlier answer was they put the value on it because of a business need. It's not a market need. I've advised them on some of their purchases, not on this particular one. This was something made on their own. I disagree with it. I think the obstacles are too large, but I think there's some additional motivation, undue pressure, we call it. So it doesn't meet the definition of market. It's a mistake. That's all I can say. Because they're not going to get this to happen. This is too unreal. This isn't going to happen. Maybe 40 years from now.
Yeah, that's all I had. Thanks.
I have no questions. Therefore, this concludes, anything in summation from either party?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, therefore, this concludes item number 4. Brings it to a conclusion. So we can carry on. Everybody okay with carrying on?
Sure.
I'm good. Yeah.
So we will move to item number 5 on the docket, file number 24-4050, roll number 13095278000. We will first address the preliminary matter of the late submission of the applicant's evidence. It was 1 day late. Mr. Assessor, did you have any issues with that?
You have no issues, no.
And anything you want to say, Mr. Neufeld, on that?
I checked my email. It was 33 minutes late. Just to clarify.
We will then go into in camera and decide on that matter whether we're going to allow that evidence here. Okay, we are back on the matter of the late submissions. The panel has decided to allow the evidence and proceed with the hearing. Proceed with the applicant's evidence. So item number 5 is a appeal on assessed value. So Mr. Harling, you may proceed with your presentation.
Mr. Chairman, the file number is 24-4050. The roll number is 13095278000. The owner is member company 2952592 Manitoba Limited. The 2025 assessed value based on reference date of April 1st, 2023 is $104,000. So in the property description, you'll see it's a vacant industrial parcel of land. Zoned RR5 rural residential 5. The land area is 9,854 square feet, or roughly 0.226 acres. I don't believe I need to go into too much detail here, because this is it's a similar property we were speaking to already, so I'll just try to streamline this a bit. So we already know where this is located. In the Logan, page 3 just shows the outline of the parcel itself. Just here, page 3. This continues on page 4, just another outline of it. Page 5 of my brief, just see the subject. Again, same zoning as the previous, RR5 rural residential 5. Page 6 is just the land value, assessed again $104,000, and the last time the property sold was March 29, 2022 for $105,000. If we turn to page 7, my brief, you can just see the subject. Again, it's 9,854 square feet for roughly 0.226 acres. Zoning power 5. Some of the land influences here are similar to the previous. And if we look at the bottom, we're assessing at a land rate of $10.55 a square foot, which gives us the total value of $104,000. Comparables, you look in here 1 through 4, they just range from 8,755 square feet to 71,787. 0.201 acres to 1.648 acres. The zonings are 5 for all 4. Similar land influences, and the sale dates range from October 5th, 2021 August 5th, 2021 to April 12th, 2022. And the price per square foot range from $2.51 a square foot to $9.71 a square foot. So those are comparisons. And if we just look again, pages 8, 9, you'll see just the comparables assessments, or comparable sales, I apologize. They're the same as the previous ones we spoke to previously, so the board's aware of those, where they are. And then pages 10, 11 are just the, pages 10 is just the classification liability, so the value of the property. And pages 10 and 11 and 12 are just the municipal assessment act information. And then just pages 13 through 17 are just some addenda in terms of status of title and land title search. That concludes the presentation. Thank you.
That's it, Mr. Harding?
Yeah, that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Neufeld, any questions for the assessor?
Is it fair that I just say everything I asked in the previous one be applied to this one and save some time? There's nothing new for me to add or ask.
Yeah, just very brief summary, that's all.
Oh, okay, certainly, but we were doing this last week when the issues were very, very similar, and there's no new evidence here on either of our parts, and there's no new questions to ask. And if we just
Just give me a summary, like a couple of sentences, give us a brief. Okay.
Yeah, okay, then but right now you're asking about questions, and I have no new questions to ask. Do you want me to re-ask the same questions I asked before? Or just leave it for summary?
Just leave it for summary then.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Arnell, any questions for the assessor?
No questions at this time.
Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, you may proceed with your presentation, Mr. Neufeld.
Oh, thank you very much. It's in both briefs are identical. I just put them in separately. One is Logan Lots and the other is Logan Lots 2. I don't know which one you're looking at, but it's the same information. It's the same approach to it. It's the same issues. We're requesting $1 per square foot on this, which is $9,854 rounded to $10,000. And with the same issues, can't be built on. It is not serviced, requires the assemblage, requires the streets to be acquired, and the zoning only permits 4 uses, none of which will fit on the lot. Thank you. That's my presentation and summation.
Mr. Harding, any questions for the applicant?
No questions.
Ms. Anderson, any questions for the applicant?
Questions?
Mr. Arnell, any questions?
No, none at this time.
And I have no questions. Anything in summation from either party?
I'm good, thank you.
No, I'm good.
Therefore, that concludes item 5. We can proceed then with item number 6, Moray Street. Preliminary matter to address is late submission from the applicant. The panel will go into in camera to decide on hearing that evidence. Okay, we are back in order, and the board has decided to allow the evidence, and we'll hear the evidence. Are there any preliminary issues from either party before we proceed?
No.
Mr. Harding, you may proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 24-3482. Roll number is 07055050600. The address is Moray Street, and the owner is Macon Industries Limited. The 2025 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2023 is $3,052,000. If you look below my brief, you'll see the property description. It's a Vindu or vacant industrial parcel of land. It is zoned M2 manufacturing general. The land area is 435,036 square feet, or roughly 9.987 acres. Turn to page 2 of my brief, you'll just see the subject location. So at the top here, it's located in the Prairie Park industrial location area. If you look at the bottom of page 2, you'll see with the red dot there, the subject located just off of Moray Street. So you can see where it's situated. This continues on page 3, just another description or showing of the parcel. And then at the bottom of page 3, you'll just see the actual outline of the subject in red there. So you can see the shape and size in the subject. This continues on pages 4 and 5, just further photos from different angles, just to get an idea of the overall shape and location and size of the subject. And then this is also included on page 6 as well. If you turn to page 7 of my brief, you'll just see we're assessing the value on its land value at $3,052,000. The last time the property sold was on October 11th, 2018 for $3,250,000. If you turn to page 8 of my brief, you'll just see the zoning is M2 manufacturing general, and just a brief description of what entails in M2 manufacturing zoning. Turn to page 9 of my brief, you'll see the subject as well as the land sale comparables. Again, the subject's 435,036 square feet, or roughly 9.987 acres, zoned for M2 manufacturing general. Some of the land influences we have on our bus route and light traffic. If we look at the bottom of the land valuation, we'll see the rate per square foot we're applying is $7.02 a square foot, which gives us again the value of $3,052,000. If we look at my comparables, we've actually looked at some of these already, so I won't go into too much detail on each one. But the comparables range in size from 119,996 square feet to 653,069 square feet. Locations are Foster, North and Eastern Industrial, Oak Point Highway, where the comparables are located. Land areas range from 2.775 acres to 14.992. Zonings range from M2, C2, and M1. Some of the land influences you can see here: external corner, no sewer, water, limited access. Sale dates range from March 27th, 2019 to March 1st, 2022. Price per square foot range from $7.08 a square foot to $12.62 a square foot. The comparables I've supplied from the comparison. And if we just go to page 10 of my brief, and 11, or sorry, page 10 is just comparable 1, which we spoke to previously on Foster, just north of south of Narren. Comparable 2, we've spoken about this one previously, just on Inkster Boulevard. Comparable 3, we spoke to this one previously as well. This is located on just off of Oak Point Highway. And then comparable number 4, again, just located north of comparable 2 on Oak Point Highway. So these would be the 4 comparisons assessment or comparable sales I've applied. I apologize. Page 14, we're assessing it again as land at $3,052,000. Pages 15 and 16 are just municipal assessment act reserve information. And then the last few pages, pages 17 through 21, are just some information regarding status of title and land title transfer when the property sold in 2018. That concludes our presentation. I have no questions. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, I do. Who was the vendor in the sale?
This sale was through the City of Winnipeg and Macon.
Okay, so City of Winnipeg sold it. Do you know what was the process upon which it was sold?
I don't know the specific process.
Okay. the comparables, none of them are from the Moray area, I take it?
Correct, that is correct. Yeah, they're all scattered just due to the, again, lack of larger comparables. Yeah.
Okay, and we have, I guess, discussed these in the past, Nairn Avenue, and as you mentioned, and then number 2 was the one, the C2 zone land, the commercial land on Inkster, correct?
Correct.
And number 3 was brought up earlier on Oak Point.
Correct. Yeah.
And number 4 is another parcel of land from that same area in on off Inkster,
Yeah, correct. I believe it's just north of comparable 2. Yeah.
and that was sorry, zoning on that you're saying is M1?
Correct.
Okay. You're not aware that that's inside the precinct T area that has all been redesignated for retail and commercial?
I was not aware of that initially, no, until you had mentioned it previously. Yeah.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thanks.
Mr. Arnold, do you have any questions for the assessor?
No questions at this time.
Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions for the assessor?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions. Therefore, Mr. Neufeld, you may proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. The land was purchased through the city's land divestiture program, where it was offered for sealed bids, and the remarks to the bidders were it will not necessarily be chosen on the price for it. The purchaser was Macdon, and they own the land immediately to the north and to the east, part of their larger campus of several hundred acres and several million square feet of manufacturing space. They were quite motivated to get this. I was actually officially working for them along with one of the brokers in our office. So whatever I said and did is covered by confidentiality at the time, but the price was not a market value. It was a decision made to get the land, period, because their warehouse, their new warehouse, is immediately north of the site. I was brought along as the valuation expert, and I didn't think that well, this is a question of confidentiality versus value. Okay, well, you know what? I've been thinking about this. Macdon's the client in both cases, so I know I disagreed with the price. I said they should never bid that high for it. They wanted to buy it because the neighbors had expressed interest. The 3 buildings next door to it were going to all get together and buy it. And they just determined that they would go higher than I was advising them. So it's an undue pressure thing. It's an assemblage price. Again, I was trying to stay in the Northwest, and so when I did a search of lands that sold in the Northwest, I couldn't. I never found this one that the assessor brought forward off Oak Point. This one didn't show up in the database. Otherwise, I probably would have reviewed it. But this is a better piece of land. It's serviced. It's ready to go. And the only downside in this is that Moray is not a hotbed of investment. There are 2 big users there, Macdon and Boeing, and the rest is is smaller. So most of the demand has been focused in Centerport at this point in time. But aside from that, the valuation, I didn't do these numbers in the valuation. I do have a verbal change that I think should be considered. And this is not a coincidence. This is what they should have paid for it, which is 2.5 million or 250,000 per acre. And that coincides fairly close to the Oak Point land, although that's a smaller parcel. So my request is 202.5 million.
Everybody in the panel have that? Okay, Mr. Harding, do you have any questions for the applicant?
You know what? I have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Arnell, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I'm good at this time. Thanks.
I have no questions. Anything in summation from either party?
I'm good, thank you.
Reville?
Nothing new. Nope.
Okay, therefore, this concludes item 6, Moray Street. We will now move to item 7, 500 Dawson Road. And there is a matter of late submission of the applicant's evidence. The board will go in camera and
Sorry, could you just give me the file number before you go? The assessor puts theirs in file number, so I can't ever find them.
Oh yeah, 24-3971.
3971, thanks.
No problem.
Yeah, and Ms. Bugel, can you please just remain where you are during this process? Be very quick. So.
I understand. I'm trying to save time. I do have to take comfort breaks every now and then.
Okay. Okay, we are back in order on the matter of the late submission of the applicant's evidence. The board has decided to allow the evidence and will hear it. So therefore, Mr. Harding, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 24-3971. The roll number is 0603191700. The address is 500 Dawson Road North, and the owner is 874 Marion Holdings Limited. 2025 assessed value based on the reference date April 1st, 2023 is $1,070,000. If look at the crop description information, we'll see this is Vindu or vacant industrial property. It is zoned M3 manufacturing heavy. The land area is 194,600 square feet, or roughly 4.469 acres. If we turn to page 2 of my brief, see what the subject location is at the top there, where the red dot is. So again, this is where we're putting in Dawson Road North. If you just look further below that picture, again, we can see a better picture of the subject itself from a Google Street View or Google image. Turn to page 3, we get a better look at the subject property itself. As you can see here, this is a regularly shaped parcel, shaped like kind of like a triangle. So you kind of get an idea of the top there, what it's shaped like at the top, and then as you get further in, you can see more of a close-up image of this. So this is, this would be, as you can see, Marion Street. This is around the, this, kind of around the Mission Industrial area. So, just east of it would be Ashmore Boulevard. So, if we turn to page 4 of my brief, we'll just see the cost value or the valuation summary, which is again says we have land value of $1,070,000, and the last time the property sold was on June 8th, 2021 for $1,025,000. We turn to page 5 of my brief, you'll just see the zoning. It is zoned M3 manufacturing heavy, and just a brief description of what can be built on M3 land or M3 zoned land. Okay, now if we turn to page 6 of my brief, we look at the land sale comparables about the subject. Again, the subject's 194,680 square feet, or 4.496 acres, zoned M3 manufacturing heavy, and then you can see some of the land influences below that. If we look into the land valuation, we'll see a rate per square foot of $5.50 a square foot is being applied. which gives us an overall land value of $1,070,000. And if we look at the comparisons of assessment here, or comparable sales, I apologize, keep saying that. So I believe we've looked at most of these, but I'll just quickly go through them here, or two of them I don't believe we have. But the first one, again, on Oak Point Highway, 118,000 square feet, 2.7 acres, again, the C3 M1 commercial zoning, sold June 2nd, or January 2nd, 2020 for $6.28 a square foot. Comparable 2 on Foster Street, we spoke to again, 119,000 square feet, sold on March 1st, 2022 for $7.08 a square foot. Comparable 3, this is a newer one on 730 Camille Sis. This is 224,899 square feet, or roughly 5.160 acres. Zoned M2. See some of the land influences. This one sold on November 19th, 2021 for $5.74 a square foot. And then comparable 4 is located on 65 Hyde Avenue. This is on Point Highway, 229,744 square feet. This one has no sewer to water, rail influence. And sold, this is an older sale, September 6, 2016, sold for $657 a square foot. So those are the land sale comparables. Now, if we turn to page 7 brief, we've seen this comparable previously on Oak Point Highway, so the board's seen this in the previous property. Comparable number 2 on page 8, we've seen this one previously as well, just south of Narren Avenue and Foster Street. Comparable 3, this one is located on the St. Bob's Industrial Park. So this is where this one's located. You can see the shape of it. And then comparable number 4, again, this was a 2016 sale, slightly older, on Hyde Avenue, very close to actually one of the other comparables I had spoken to previously, or I've shown I applied. So again, this one's slightly older, at 657 square foot, the 2016 sale. So some of these sales, I'm, in terms of the shape, some of them are regular, but the subject probably, as I've indicated, is slightly irregular based on the triangle shape. So that does definitely, have some impacts of what you could use it for in terms of some portions of the land. So I'm mindful of that. Page 11 of my brief is just the land and building summary. Again, we're just assessing land at $1,070,000. Pages 12 and 13 are just some municipal assessment accurate information. And then pages 14 through 17 is just some titles, search and land transfer documents regarding the sale in 2021. So that concludes my presentation, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
Questions for the assessor, Mr. Neufeld? You're muted.
I gotta find it first. Yeah, I do have some questions. The sale that you're quoting here, was the building on at a time of sale?
I believe when I double check here, so I just want to verify that here. I just want to. Yes, at the time we had it as a vacant industrial. Yes, when it's sold.
Okay, so there's a building, and confirm that the purchaser was the neighbor next door, East Side Collision.
Yes, 875 American Holdings. Yeah, that would be the same. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So he bought the land next door, an assemblage sale that you had listed as having a building on. Now it does not have a building on it, correct?
Well, as far as I know, when it's sold, I don't believe there was a building on it.
Oh, that's what I asked you. I thought you said you did.
Oh, yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, no, if you want to fix that answer, I don't care. I just wanted to hear what you had to say.
Oh, yeah, no, like I said, yeah, I believe when it did sell, there was no building on it.
No building. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you determine whether or not there was any influences on the sale that would impact the price?
No, I was not. I didn't look into any particular.
Okay.
So.
On your comparables, again, we've seen many of these today. We're both in the repeat business.
Yeah.
Now, I noted that the only one from St. Boniface was fairly lower than the others. Is that representative of St. Boniface?
Yes, that would be correct, yes.
Okay. And in regard to that particular sale in St. Boniface, number 3,
Correct, yes.
that's a fairly rectangular shape.
Yes, I don't dispute that is a much more
Okay.
in better shape, yeah.
And the subject on, I'm looking at your picture, page 3, is a triangle. Did you determine the usable area when considering the required setbacks?
I did not go into that detail. No. But
What
I'm
are they
aware.
gonna, yeah, what are they gonna do in that pointy part?
Yeah, in terms of building, you're right. I admit it would definitely be limited in what they could do with it, other than maybe storing, I guess you could say. So,
Well, yeah, but with a setback, there's no use involved, correct?
yes, depending on the setback, yes.
And what is their difference? What is the property line distance to the center of the rail
I don't
line?
have, I don't have that information on hand, so.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, any questions for the assessor?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Arnell, any questions?
No questions at this time, thanks.
And I have no questions. Therefore, Mr. Neufeld, you can proceed with your presentation.
Yes, well, I guess you got the gist of it. Neighbor buys it. It's called assemblage. I know him and I know what his motivation was. It was for a business expansion next to his existing facility. That's not something you would typically rely on for value. That when you have an overly motivated purchaser, it's not a question of adjusting for it. You just ignore it. The sales we looked at, I've changed them. You notice that, eh? They're all now in the area. Zonings M1 to M3. Of particular note is that the only M3 I was able to find was the lowest one, and the whole concept with M3 land is rather an interesting one. It is allows the most permissive level of uses as far as noxiousness, but it's very limited land, and so sometimes it demands a higher price, sometimes it doesn't, and it depends on the usage and the location. And of course, note the assessor had no M3 land whatsoever. So that one was of interest. Now the land on Dupuis, I have to admit though, was a sworn value. It wasn't a registered sale, and that means that on title it went for $1, and they said it was 400,000, and I didn't determine why it went that way, but it was of note that it was a lower amount. Now, the big issue here is the setbacks. So at 4.5 acres, now on my page 2, there are 2 setbacks to consider. One is the zoning, and the setbacks for the zoning are, I didn't put them in here. Well, you've got a 25 foot setback, and the other one is the rail setback, and this is a issue that has been coming up a fair amount in modern development to deal with rail. The city is now using a 30-meter center line from the on the rail. And what I did is I put a line at 15 meters from the rail, which is 50 feet. And that's going to be the unusable area. The concept is to have at least that setback, and then a berm can be put in, and that will be in all future developments. Yeah, and the only exceptions would be if it's a spur, and of course the spur goes into your own property, then you're waiving those setbacks. But otherwise, this is the setback you're going to see. You'll note when we saw it on some of the other sales today, where the newer planned lots had a setback installed. The recommendation is actually 200 feet on each side from the Council of Railway Operators and Municipalities, but Winnipeg has not adopted that as a policy. The official is 30-meter right of way, 15 meters each side, and so the effective area then gets cut, and what you do is you lose the pointy end of the triangle, of course, and that's why it's such a drastic difference. So I've got 2.35 acres as usable when we did the measurement per the zoning, and that's the problem with triangle lots. We did end up just using 3 acres as usable because every piece of land has a setback problem. The normal one, as I'm just showing above on my page 1, is a 25-foot setback. So that's normally going to give you, in this case, the subject is around 200,000 square feet, with which on a normal property, a square one or a round one, it's going to give you about 450 linear feet of frontage. You're going to lose 25 feet of that, which is about 3.4%. And you do expect some normal loss. So we had measured 2.35 usable, and where we're given a slightly higher rate of loss for setbacks to 3 acres as usable. And then we're not really far off from what the assessor has applied for value at all. So that would be the focus, is just on the utility of it. And we have taken that into account. And we also know what the future uses are. It's going to be an automotive-based usage. So the pointy part really doesn't help them at all, because you can't park cars in the pointy part. But I don't know what other better way to explain that. But excuse me. And that's our value then at, well, 547 a square foot, very similar to what the assessor had, but a lower yield on the land because of its configuration. 720,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding, any questions for the applicant?
The one question I had actually was answered already, so thank you, I'm good.
Mr. Arnell, any questions?
No, so just to clarify, you're using 3 acres as usable, so you're taking 1.5 acres off.
Yeah, and that's going to be the setback you're going to be forced on you by rail side, as as the loss. It's accentuated in triangles, because in a square you're only losing one side. In a triangle you're losing really 3 sides. That's why it's so drastic. Normally 3% is normal.
Okay, that's all I had. Thanks.
Mr. Anderson?
And you also used 5.47 as your rate, right? Per square
Yeah,
foot?
5.47. I note the assessor's at 550.
Yeah.
So I'd go with 550, but it's the utility of the land. Again, this is Orphan Day. This is we're not today talking about any normal pieces of marketable land. We're speaking about lots that have deficiencies, and that's why we're here today and appealing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have no further questions been asked and answered. Any summation from either party?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Newbound?
Nope, it's good.
Okay, therefore this concludes item number 7, 500 Dawson Road. We will now move to item number 8, Niagara Road East. Dealing with a preliminary issue first, the late submission of the applicant's evidence. The board is going to consider the matter by going in camera, and we will come back with a decision. Okay, we are back in order, and the board has considered the matter of the late submission of evidence from the applicant, and we have decided to allow the evidence and hear it. Therefore, Mr. Harding, you can begin your presentation. You're muted.
I apologize, I'm muted. Yeah, I just figured that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the file number is 24-4147. The roll number is 060933700000. The address is Niagara Road East, and the owner is Number Company 3747728 Manitoba Limited. The 2025 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2023 is $534,000. If you look at the bottom of page 1 of the property description, subject again, property type is vacant industrial. It is zone M1 manufacturing light. The land area is 62,949 square feet, or roughly 1.445 acres. If you look at page 2 of my brief, you'll just see the subject again located it's located just on Niagara Road East. Just south of that would be Fermor Avenue. Look at the bottom of page 2, you'll just see the subject, little red dot there, where it's located. And if you look at page 3 of my brief, you'll just see the subject itself and the outline of the parcel. So you can see here again, this is another one, slightly regular shaped parcel, kind of a similar triangle shape, slightly smaller though than the previous property, but this is just the shape of the subject. If you continue to page 4 of my brief, you'll just see a further photo of it. Again, just another angle of it. Just show the property in its entirety, and then just the bottom of page 4, I just showed a street view just to show, again, just vacant piece of land. Going to page 5 of my brief, you'll just see the total value, again, assessed at $534,000. And the last time the property sold was in January 9th, 2018 for $575,000. If we turn to page 6 of my brief, this is the zoning. I apologize, I made a mistake here. This is actually M1 zoning, so it's not M2. So I apologize. That's just incorrect there on my part. But so it's M1. I just want to let the board know that. So the description there is unfortunately incorrect. So, but it is M1 zone. So if we go to page 7 of my brief, we'll just see my subject as well as land sale comparables. So again, the subject here is located on Niagara Road East. Big industrial. The land area is 62,949 square feet. We have a land area and acreage of 1.445 acres. It is owned M1 manufacturing light, and one of the influences would be heavy traffic. If we look under the land valuation, we'll see the property. We're using the land rate at $8.48 a square foot, which gives us the $534,000 estimated market value. Now, so when you look at my comparables here, we have 4 comparables here. I believe these ones weren't going to be seen today, so I'll go through these ones. So the first one is on 1530 St. James Street. The land area is 31,413 square feet, roughly 0.721 acres. Zone M2 manufacturing, and some of the influences there, bus route and traffic rail line. And this one sold slightly older on May 10th, 2017 for $13.53 a square foot. Comparable 2 is located on 1474 Wall Street. Vacant industrial, 40,091 square feet, or roughly 0.920 acres. Zone into manufacturing, and some of the influences of human traffic. It's on the eastern corner, rail line, and school. And this one sold on May 25th, 2018 for $8.61 a square foot. We've looked at comparable 3. This is located on 198 McPhillips Street. It's 55,738 square feet, roughly 1.280 acres. And zoning is MMU, or mixed manufacturing mixed use. And you can see some of the land influences here: bus route, heavy traffic, and rail line. And this property sold on March 18th, 2021 for $17.94 a square foot. And then finally, comparable number 4 is located on 1911 Dougal Road, vacant industrial, 61,925 square feet, or roughly 1.422 acres. It is on M3 manufacturing heavy. One of the land influences are medium traffic. And sold on October 7th, 2021 for $10.28 a square foot. So if we turn to page 8 of my brief, we look at some comparables. So again, this one's located on St. James. So, I'll just, go through some of these and explain. So this one definitely is a better shape. Like I said, when it comes to irregular shaped parcels, it's hard to find a lot of comparable sales. But again, this one's located on St. James Avenue, so I, wouldn't dispute that it would be superior in the sense it's, better shape and it's good location in terms of, accessibility as well as exposure. So comparable 9, this is located on Wall Street, so this is more of a, closer to the Aaron Street kind of industrial area of the city. Again, this one's a bit, better shape in the sense it's square, and it's obviously got access on Richard Avenue and Wall Street. So this is another comparable. Comparable number 10, again, this is located on McPhillips Street, so this is slightly irregular shape, but mindful of the fact it's not quite as pointy of a triangle as the subject. But this one, it is a slightly irregular shape, but again, located on McPhillips, definitely have good access and, good exposure. And comparable number 4 is located on Dugald Road, so this would be the closest to the subject. Again, this one's shaped more of a rectangular shape, similar in size to the subject. This one's sold again for $10.28 a square foot. But again, this one's a bit better shape in terms of being more of a rectangle. I'm not disputing. So, I'm not going to dispute two or three of the comparables would be, further away from the subject. The closest one would be comparable 4. And there are some differences in it. Trying to find comparable sales, similar size was some of my difficulty. I mean, especially trying to find recent, I was having some trouble. So I'm aware of those differences. So, but those are the comparables I've shown here. And if we go to page 13 of my brief, and 14 is just the municipal classification liability allocation and the assessed value of $534,000. Pages 14 and 15 are just some municipal assessment act reserve information. And then pages 16 through 17 are just some addendum information regarding title search and land title search on the sale that occurred in 2018. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, any questions for the assessor?
Yeah, he beat himself up pretty good, so I'm gonna be not ask too many. Just one though, actually. We just looked at a property where your model came up with $550 a square foot, and this one isn't too far away, but your model came up with $848. What would be the different? And you use the same comparables or same neighborhood comparables for same type of comparables, different neighborhoods. What would be the difference?
Well, I mean, from the previous, we're talking about the previous property we're just dealing with, I guess what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, that property, again, the biggest factor would be the size. It's obviously, it's notably larger than the subject. I believe it. How big was that one again? That would be probably the main factor. Would be the size. And I think this area would be a little bit better. I know they're very similar in area, but I think this would be a little bit better area. So those would be some of the factors I can see would be influencing that. So.
All right. Okay. That's all I wanted to ask.
Ms. Anderson, any questions for the assessor?
Been asked and answered. Thank you.
Mr. Arnall, any questions for the assessor?
None at this time, thanks.
And I have no questions. Therefore, we will proceed with your presentation, Mr. Neufeld.
Okay. Maybe if you'll just permit me, I think I know what the answer is here. I just noticed something on the sale price. You have 2.4 million listed. Was that for a larger parcel that the subject was part of?
Yeah, that was a multi-role sale. It was part of another additional.
Okay, thanks. Okay. And this property is at is the last one on Niagara Road before of this row of service properties. And it's an interesting location, very diverse users from transmission shops to hotels. It's an irregular shape again, and it's got a pointy end, which is not as pronounced as the last one. We had just looked at the same sales again, and we put a number on it at $240 an acre, which is $551 a square foot, similar to what we were looking at for the other parcel. Although this one is not as severely impacted by the shape of the land. It is at we'll call it the eastern extremities of the city, and I don't know, but I mean, I remember driving down this road for many decades, and it's not the hotbed of development out there. The comparable sales, there's actually one fairly close by, and that's at 1329 Niagara. Now that's not in right on Niagara. That's in there's a crescent there where Harley Davidson is. So that's a similar size lot. that sold for $762 a square foot, but it's with the rest of the development in that area. So it does have some different locational factors, but it is fairly close by. And it's a square lot, so it's a better shape. I mean, I think when I look at that, I would probably, I didn't do this preparation, but I would probably think that we're kind of light on the value here. And I would think that that it should be a little bit higher than this, not as quite a good a lot as 1329 because of the shape, but I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this math here. Yeah, that's what I thought. I would probably be like halfway between the St. Boniface Industrial, the other M1s, and like to take Dupuis out of the mix on determining an average. So the price, because that's an M3 lot as well. So that's at 627 a square foot, which is about 275,000 per acre. So if I may, I'd just like to adjust that 275 times 1.4 is 385,000. And again, we're dealing with a whole acreage. The angles aren't as pronounced. A lot of blank pages there. Okay, sorry. If you got that changed, then that's my presentation.
Great, thank you. Mr. Harling, any questions for the applicant?
You know, I mean, like I said, I guess, you know, like I know there's been a number of these properties we look at, there's been some, you know, sales and such. Like, you know, I know it's an older sale, the 2018 sale, but I guess my question is, like, I know it's a little bit older, but you know, I'm just wondering why, you know, why would it be, you think this property would, like, when it sold it in 2018 for 913 square foot, like, you know, what would be the reason they paid that for then now, but why would they not pay the same amount for now, or why would you think it would be less than then, I guess?
Well, I mean, I don't know the answer to it because I don't know the history to it, but you know, I suppose at the time there was, you know, when I look at a picture of it, it looks like someone took a shot at developing it because there's an approach made up and it looks like there was the beginnings of a parking area, and there's a connection to the motel next door. I'm going to guess that they had an idea that an expansion or a companion unit to this was in the works, and it was based on the assumption that they could do it, and it didn't pan out. So I think it was a bit of a risk taker on that one, but I don't know for sure. I'm only speculating.
No, that's all the questions I have then. Thank you.
Mr. Arnell, any questions for the applicant?
No questions, thanks.
Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I have no questions. Anything in summation from either party?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, yes, I do. I'm a good guesser. Go ahead, though, Matthew, if you want to go first.
No, I said I'm good. Yeah, no submissions.
Just in summation, I know this is new evidence, but I was asked it. They wanted to put a restaurant up on the site. That didn't work out. That's what prompted the purchase of the land and a restaurant attached to the motel. Obviously not feasible, so that means it's not market value. Thank you.
Therefore, that concludes item 8, Niagara Road East. We will now move to item number 9, 445 Softly, file number 24-4173. We will begin with a preliminary item, late submission of evidence from the applicant. The panel will go in to camera to decide to hear on that evidence. Okay, we are back in order and the panel has decided we will allow the evidence and we will hear it. So, Mr. Harding, you may proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 24-4173. The roll number is 060530140000. The address is 445 Softley Road, and the owner is Cabral Investments Limited. 2025 assessment based on a reference date of April 1st, 2023 is $525,000. Look under the description, we see it's a vacant industrial or VINDU, zone M2 manufacturing general. Land area is 128,671 square feet or 2.954 acres. On page 2 of my brief, you'll see the subject map at the top there, where it's located. And at the bottom of page 2, you can see where this little red dot. It's just located just off of Lajimodi Boulevard. You can kind of get an idea there. You go to page 3 of my brief, you'll just see where the subject is located in red here. So again, just Lajimodi just is to the west. And then you'll see here Warman Road as well as Softley Road. So this is where the subject is located. And page 3 at the bottom, you'll see more of a zoomed in photo of the subject property. Page 4 of my brief, just further photos from just different angles, just to get a show the property, subject property in its entirety. Now if we turn to page 5 of my brief, you'll just see the valuation summary. Total value is $525,000. And then you'll see the sale history, so there are no recent sales. Last one was in 2009. So there were a number of sales prior, but there were no recent sales. Okay, if we turn to page 6, we'll just see the zoning. So again, we'll see the zone is M2 manufacturing general and description of what entails in there and what can be built. Turn to page 7 of my brief. We'll see the subject as well as the comparable sales. So again, subject, again, located on 445 Softley Road. The land area is 128,671 square feet with a roughly 2.954 acres. Zone M2 manufacturing general. And some of the land influences we have are on bus route. There's contaminated soil as well as heavy traffic. Now, if you look further below under the net rate per square foot, we're applying a rate of $4.08 a square foot, which gives us the estimated value or the market value, estimated value of $525,000. So I've shown you a few number of comparables here. So the first comparable here is on Mission Street, the Mission Industrial, so fairly close to the subject. This one would be slightly smaller at 58,177 square feet, or roughly 1.336 acres. It is on M3 manufacturing heavy, and the time when this property sold it was known of contamination on it as well. Now I will note this is a much older sale in May 14, 2014. There's just not a lot of sales of contaminated sites, so that's why I want to show this particular one, just to show that contaminated land still does sell. So I'm mindful that it's slightly older as well, but just wanted to show that comparable, and it is in the vicinity of the subject. Comparable to 2, this is on 12 Charles Street. So this is 69,706 square feet, or roughly 1.6 acres. The zone M3 manufacturing heavy, and some of the influences are medium traffic, external corner, and rail line. And this one sold on April 23rd, 2021 for $6.46 a square foot. Comparable 3, this one located on 615 Mission Street, very close to the comparable 1. It's 128,232 square feet, or roughly 2.944 acres. Zone M3 manufacturing heavy. Some of the influences are park and rail line. And again, this is a slightly older sale, sold in February 4th, 2016 for $4.03 a square foot. Again, trying to find a comparable in the area of similar size. Comparable 4, I believe I've spoken to this one previously. Maybe I believe I've spoken to this one. It's located in St. Bob Industrial Park. Land area is 186,640 square feet, or roughly 4.285 acres. It's M3 manufacturing heavy. Some of the influences are no sewer and water. And rail line, and this one sold on November 2nd, 2020 for $5.36 a square foot. And then actually number 5 is on 500 Dawson Road. We actually spoke this one previously. This one of the ones on appeal today. So again, this one's 194,680 square feet, 4.469 acres. Manufacturing heavy. Some of the influences are heavy traffic and rail line. And again, this one sold on June 8th, 2021 for $527 a square foot. So these would be some of the comparable. These would be the comparable sales I've shown. So the first comparable here, if you look at page 8, is just on Mission Street. So this is the subject. Again, it's like the older sales. It's an older sales I mentioned, but it was a known site that was contaminated that did sell. Similar shape to the subject. You know, you could argue with better access on Mission Street. So comparable number 2, this is on Sutherland Avenue or Charles Avenue, which is located in the north end portion of the city. You can see it's surrounding Jarvis, Robinson Street. Again, square street parcel, similar. Now this continues also on page 9. Page 10 is comparable number 3. And
Yeah, I'm very sorry. I need a break.
Okay, we are back in order. Mr. Harden, you can carry on where you left off, please.
I believe I was on page 10, speaking of comparable number 3. So my third comparable again was located on 1615 Mission Street. So this was close to comparable 1. So you can just kind of see the outline of this comparable, like a rectangular shape, slightly irregular because it's missing a portion of the corner there. Rail line is just north of it. Comparable 4, I believe I spoke to this one previously. This is located on Black Diamond Boulevard. So you can see here, this is this is definitely larger, nicer rectangular shape portion of land as well. And then comparable 5, we've already spoken to obviously about that one in the previous appeal there. So that's comparable number 5 there. So yeah, if we go to page 13 and 14, my brief, it's just some classification liability allocation information. And then just in the last page, like I've already indicated that, I've already mentioned that we have an influence of contamination. So I was just, interesting. I went on the Manitoba registered contaminated sites and I tried to see if I could find them there. They didn't list it, but I'm not sure the reasoning for that. But regardless, we've already indicated that. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that they hadn't designated it. So I can't speak to the reason why, but just something of note I wanted to note. So with that being said, that concludes my presentation and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Mr. Dukel, any questions for the assessor's presentation?
Yes, I do. I noted that sorry, I was just looking at the description of this. Is the subject currently serviced? Do you know that?
Do not know the top of my head. I apologize. No.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. It's not on your records anyway, where that there's a determination if it is or it isn't.
Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I don't have that information. I apologize.
Okay. Has there ever been a building on it?
See here. Trying to see if I can see some error reviews from previous years, if I can find something maybe, but can't. I apologize. I don't know.
Oh, okay. And in this case, your comparables are sorry, I'm getting the right page here. You went to all M3 zone lands, correct?
Yes, these are all M3, correct? Yeah.
What is the subject contaminated with? Do you know what it is?
I don't know the specific contamination on there, if it's a number of things or not. So.
And viewed any environmental reports?
I know there is an environmental report for around this area, but I'm not familiar with this particular one. There's other ones I am familiar with though, but.
And I guess I'm kind of wondering here is if the land can actually be developed, or if there are the restrictions make it improbable. Do you know that?
Yeah, like I don't know if privy to the exact if it can be developed or not. So I know it's being used for surface use, but yeah, in terms of the buildings, yeah, I'm not entirely sure at this time.
And the other comparables you brought up, are they all capable of being developed, or did you? I'm just looking at their pictures here. Are they? Is that possible?
And these particular ones, as far as I know, there'd be no reason that they couldn't be developed.
Okay, those are my questions then, thanks.
Ms. Anderson, any questions for the applicant or the assessors?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Arnell, any questions for the assessor?
No, they're asked and answered already. Thank you.
And all my questions have been asked and answered. Mr. Neufeld, you may proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. I'm just making a note here of something interesting. Okay. The subject lands have been were part of an asphalt plant that was located on this site, and in my memory, I can't ever recall that there's ever been a development. But this is a property we can all see as you drive past on the bridge on La Jamodier, and right now it's in use as outside storage for selling equipment. There's a report on it on page 4, just on the but I guess that's not in dispute. It's contaminated, and what is important in these situations is the cost of the cleanup, and is it viable to remediate it to another use? Because I mean, even though you're going to put another industrial use there, you're not going to get a permit. You're not going to, well, you might be able to get a permit. You're never going to get financing for a project that's contaminated. So it's always a question of the cleanup required. Yeah, and the indication we have is that it's probably it is not economically viable to remediate. So what we're doing is we're taking away the potential of the land. So if your land can be used, even if it's not selling right now, eventually there are no restrictions. It's just going to be market demand and other issues. In this case of this property, there is no hope. It will always be because of the cost of cleanup too far removed from development. And that's the way we looked at it. On our page, now I'm just trying to look here. So all around it, they suffer the same fate. We had again, these are the same sales we looked at earlier, page 4, and our understanding is that Dupuis was in the same boat as being impacted environmentally, even though that is it's a $1 sale with a sworn value of 134,000 an acre. This just gave us the pause like this, as with some of the other properties we've heard today, earlier 2670 Saskatchewan. This type of property doesn't get marketed because there's no hope. What are you gonna, for getting another use on it? There's no upside, and that's essentially what leaves you at a bit of a blank. What's interesting is that the sales history that were brought forward by the assessor kind of point to a lot of turnover, and this contamination incidentally is dated. It's been there for quite a while, and it's never achieved a high value. So 525,000 is a bit of a pipe dream. We would probably estimate the land as we have here at a fair bit lower. We put 50,000 an acre. We don't know the cost of the cleanup, and that's what we should be able to try to factor in to determine its value, but that's beyond our scope. We don't have a report, and we don't have prices on it. It's just not viable. It's a hold for use for outside storage, and this is an estimate at 50,000 an acre for land that won't ever be developed. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Harling, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I think you kind of answered, obviously. So like you kind of indicated, so like obviously we don't know maybe all the, well, you did mention it was an asphalt plant before, so we're aware of that. So you know, in terms of remediating it, we don't know the cost, right? I mean, obviously you can, you know, without doing a site assessment of some type, we wouldn't know, right? But that being said, I guess, like you said, I guess it still could be developable if they did the site, you know, if they cleaned up the site, right? But and you know, and I guess you kind of noted, you kind of, I guess the 50,000 per acre is just kind of an estimate, right? Just based on some of those issues you're indicating. So
Well, no, it was using, I didn't do this up, but you can see that on page 3, that there's the assessments of the neighbors are all at 50,000 an acre. And I think, I think, you know, you kind of got it right with those ones and you missed the boat with this one. They're both say the same thing, contaminated soil, contaminated soil. It's the same contamination. I know we don't compare assessments, but if you want to know how we came to 50,000, we looked at the neighbors' assessments.
okay, no, that's good. That answers my questions, and thank you.
Mr. Arnall, any questions for the applicant?
Any idea how long it was an asphalt plant was on that property?
Let me just see if this report speaks to it. I can't guess. I mean, I can guess. I mean, all I can remember is in my youth driving by it and seeing an asphalt plant. And, you know, I'd have to say 30, 40 years at least. And it would discontinue usage about, I'm gonna say 15 or 20 years ago. So it was in operation for a long time, and then it ceased operation. I don't have a better answer than that, but it's a long-term project.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Sorry.
Ms. Anderson?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions. Anything in summation from either party?
No, I'm good at my end. I'll just let the board rely on the evidence. Thank you.
I did have one thing to say, and I know you're not going to compare assessments, but I'm just going to say it anyway. The neighbors are been assessed on the basis of contaminated soil at a much lower rate. I think there should be some equity in the world, and the problem with contaminated property is that, you know, there's no market for it. You can't put it up for sale and expect to get any sort of price for it. So it is a sort of a difficult sort of site work to do, and we did something we're not supposed to do. We looked at other assessments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This then concludes item number 9, 445 softly. So I believe we have completed all 9 items today. Unless somebody has different information, I believe that's true.
That's it.
Therefore, we have heard all the items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned.